Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting of Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. Our meeting is called to order. Begin this meeting as we start every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, I will be reading our mission statement. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing a rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs and interests. At this time, we would be open for public comment. If there's anyone in studio for public comment, I don't think I have anybody. And WCAT, do we have anyone with us online for public comment?
Nothing on Zoom.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next would be our Student Advisory Council, but I think due to spring scheduling, as it is crazy for everyone, we do not have anyone with us this evening. Item number 6 in our agenda would be our consent agenda. And I believe we have a motion for that.
Yep, I move that the school committee approve the minutes of the May 13th, 2025 school committee meeting.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? And that is unanimous. We are missing school committee members Pete Davis and Kevin Piscadlo this evening. I'm sure they send their regrets. Moving on, we are not scheduled. We are scheduled to have a public hearing on school choice at 7:15 this evening, so we cannot begin that until that time comes. So thinking that maybe we could jump to item number 8, I feel like we could do maybe our business report and our payroll warrant with the motion. Ms. Bethagda?
Absolutely. Thank you. So tonight in your packet, you have the monthly financial report from July 1st, 2024 through April 30th, 2025. You'll see the available balance after encumbrances and expenditures year to date is just over 2% remaining. It's just over $1 million for the months of May and June. We're really getting to the end of the fiscal year. You'll see there's a couple of negatives in the available balance column. That's due to the transfers that will happen at the year end for revolving accounts, particularly for contracted services. Those revolving account transfers that we've been talking about for the past couple of months. The next report is the grants, which have really been reduced by the end of April. We have about $97,000 remaining that will be spent for May and June, particularly for the METCO program. Our revolving account and our circuit breaker statement shows just over $4 million, but that still has yet to have May and June expenditures to those accounts, particularly for the school lunch program. You'll see that circuit breaker still has one more payment that will come by June 30th, maybe the first week of July. But we'll have a small amount that we'll be able to carry forward to next fiscal year for circuit breaker, which will help us with out-of-district tuition costs. I'll pause at this time. Does anyone have any questions?
I do not believe so. Thank you.
Payrolls for April. We had 2 payrolls in April, and I believe we have a motion.
Move that the school committee approve payroll warrants number 42 and number 44 as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? And seeing none. Those in favor? And that is unanimous for those in studio. Thank you. Okay. It's feeling like we're going to bump up right against that 7:15, and now we've like flashed through it. So
You
now we
wanted me
just
to
have
keep talking?
Now we just have to be patient.
Stress.
Do you want me to do the school bus now?
Sure, if that's okay with the chair.
Would you mind if I discussed something extraneous?
Can you do it in 4 minutes?
Yes.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can stop me.
Okay.
You can cut me off.
Oh, that might be good. Yeah, sure.
So to make it quick, we were approached by, well, over the course of the year, the ESC, which I've been a member on, was exploring electrifying our school buses. And long and short, Dr. Lyons, myself, and the Wakefield Municipal Gas Light Board met with a company called Highland Fleets, which basically operates, leases electric buses. And we basically talked about the possibility of, what it would be like to bring those in. So basically, there's a grant to apply for the state, and that deadline is approaching pretty quick, which could help basically subsidize the cost of bringing electric school buses in. So at this point, what's happening is Dr. Lyons is providing information to the company based on the buses we have, the contracts that we currently have with NRT. And then once they have that information, they are going to give us information that will help with the grant writing process. The problem is it's time sensitive. So we're basically hoping that information can come quick so that we can actually look at what the cost would be and whether or not it would be cost effective. And if this would be a negative cost impact on the district, it's not something we're necessarily exploring at this time, but we're going to look at what the grant would do with the cost offset to see if it's something worth exploring. So we thought it'd be something to explore. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So for those that are watching that didn't know, ESC is the Environmental Sustainability Committee in Wakefield. Melissa?
Just a really quick question. It sounded like the lease would just be for the buses, but our contract with NRT is also for the bus drivers, correct?
So
are we, I just want to make sure we're doing apples to apples, like.
yeah,
how we
so
would have
just to
hire
be
bus
clear,
drivers or
this
if it
is
would
not
be-
about the NRT contract
Yeah,
or
no.
about full-size buses. This is about our Class A buses
Okay.
that we have in district
Oh, okay, okay.
that we use. So we would be looking to create a grant and make a grant application that would have the potential to replace one or two of those buses. And Highland is a soup to nuts company. They do
Okay.
infrastructure development, partner development, grid development. So they kind of, and include, they'll shepherd you through the grant process and also the procurement of the bus as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. But like Kevin said, the most important part of this is the only way that we would be interested in doing this is that if it had no impact to our regular day budget.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good job coming under the wire.
What about that?
Reminds me what it's like to sit in class, like last class of the day, on a nice summer day. Empathize with some students, maybe.
How long it actually takes for 1 minute to go by?
Right, I think it's like 87 seconds, I think.
I think we're
All right, I think we're now good. So seeing as it is now 7:15, and we are in our regular agended time for public hearing, this is our public hearing on school choice, a public hearing on whether or not the school committee would accept non-resident students into the public schools under the provisions of the school choice law. So I think we have a motion to enter into school choice.
Move that the school committee open the public hearing on school choice for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions? And seeing none, those in favor?
I think it's a roll call vote,
Oh, it's a roll call
just
vote
because it
always.
says roll call on the budget.
That's,
It is.
you are correct. Melissa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Alex? Tom?
Yes?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So that is 5 unanimous by roll call vote. Thank you, Kevin. So now we are into our public hearing on school choice. Is there anyone in studio that would like to make a comment? I don't see any. It's going to go the way of regular public comment. WCAT, is there anyone online that would like to make a public comment regarding school choice?
They're looking at it right now.
Thank you.
No, nothing.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll stay here for a little bit to give people time to join if they're late. I'm going to give it, I'd say, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Those are two drastically different numbers. We'll see how that goes.
While we're,
It takes 87 seconds to go by 1 minute. That's a lot.
so while we are waiting for the viewing audience, would you like me to summarize the proposal that was made?
That'd be great.
Okay. For those both in studio and those watching tonight, on May 6th, I sent an email to school committee proposing that we enter into school choice for the 25-26 school year. In that proposal, I shared kind of class enrollment projections that we use in the budget process. I also sent in the proposal a kind of a breakdown of what we would be suggesting as to participate in choice. The proposal from administration is to accept 2 students in grades 2 through grades 12 for a total of 22 students. So we would be starting very small. And so the recommendation would be for that number of students. Technically, there are more open seats at the high school level, but again, we want to kind of open up a range of seats because the benefit, the longer students are here, the greater the benefit, and we'd like to propose that 2 students be accepted again from grades 2 through grades 12 for a total of 22 students. The recommendation would mean that we would have, for the open seats that we have in these grades, we would be, as students come in, they would be tuitioned in. So a small per pupil stipend or per pupil tuition would come with those students that went through the choice lottery and were accepted. And so that's how that would work. And so it's only two seats per grade, 2 to 12. If no one makes application to those grades, then when we open the lottery and close the lottery, if no one makes application, for example, in grade 2 or grade 5, then those seats for this year would not be filled. Again, the kind of the notion of starting small and learning is the primary focus, along with assessing the potential to bring additional revenue into the district and the potential to allow faculty and staff to participate in the choice lottery for a spot here in the Wakefield Public Schools. So this would be a change for us and something that we have not yet tried in the time that I've been here or for, I believe, ever here in Wakefield. So that's a very quick summary. Happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Nobody have comments.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. All right. Well, I think perhaps we'll close public comment at this point. I think we're going to take a couple of agenda things out of order so that we can get some students to talk about their program, and then we'll revise this as a larger committee to have our discussion for for school choice. So that being said, is there a motion to come out of public comment for school choice?
Move that the school committee exit the public hearing on school choice for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Assuming this is another roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes to Melissa?
Yes.
Yes, Alex? Tom?
Yes.
Yes.
Kevin? And myself, yes, that is unanimous. All right. Thank you all. And thank you for the update, Dr. Lyons.
Of course.
If you want to move into superintendent comments from here?
Thank you. With your permission, I'd like to take the items out of order.
Yep.
Next, we'd like to welcome David Robinson and our WMHS students to the table to talk a little bit about the high school internships that was piloted for the first time this year. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Yes.
You're on, Dave.
Okay. So we just, how's this? Thank you for having us tonight. We're really excited to be here. As we've said before, this is our first year of having an internship program at the high school. It's something we've been wanting to do for quite a long time, and we started this year as a pilot program, so it was fairly small, but we did have 15 seniors participate in the senior internship program. And so I wanted to have a few here, which I think is a lot more exciting to listen to than myself. So we brought 3 of our seniors who just finished participating. It was a 7-week internship. So instead of coming to school for the 4th quarter, they finished up at the end of the 3rd quarter and spent the last 7 weeks at their internship sites. And so every week they sent and submitted reflections on what they've learned, what was hard that week, what was fun that week, any different things they're thinking about the field. And they all did a great job. I had a great time following along on the Google Classroom. It was very fun. And so today we should have a few seniors to kind of just say a few words about what they did.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so for my internship, I'm Emma Waldeck. For my internship, I chose to look more towards like medical base. So I got the opportunity to internship at Beth Israel Hospital, and I was paired up with a nurse, and I got to experience the life inside the cath lab and in the holding area. It was actually a really cool experience because I got to work with a bunch of people of different ages, learn like different ways to deal with like different types of patients and situations that like show up. I think the coolest experience I got to do was scrubbing for my first surgery at the age of 18, which is really cool. I got to, that's pretty much it, but yeah, it was a really cool experience, and it's gonna help me like figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. And now I know I want to go into nursing and work more towards like that way, so it will help a lot with college. But yeah, good. Thank you.
I'm Ben Hickey, and my internship was at the Wakefield Daily Item. That's because I love to write. I love to tell stories to people that are willing to read them. It was very fun for me. I think going into it, I knew I was going to be part of a small little writing team, and it was fun to be able to just write articles for them, and then they were on the paper and like printed, and everyone in town got to see them, and that was very exciting. At the age of 18, like Emma said, it's a big deal to be part of something that advanced and that wide. I think it was very fun for me, for someone that loves to write, that's going to be going to college to write and continue the field of journalism and just writing. That's just kind of it, but it's very interesting to be given that opportunity to explore the field of your choice and that you want to pursue a career in.
My name is Daisy Casasso, and I did my internship at the Doyle Early Education Center, and it's been a great experience. I'm super thankful I got to take part in it for my last quarter of high school. And yeah, so how it worked is basically I've been switching between, I got to go into every single classroom that they have. I would go into each classroom for 3 days, and this included like specifically the special needs classrooms, as well as I got the opportunity to shadow some other professionals such as like the social and emotional guidance counselor and also an occupational therapist they have there on site. And the most impactful person I got to shadow also was the speech pathologist there at the Doyle. And it's actually made me consider, I've been thinking about it for a while just because I'm not totally sure if I want to go into early education. That's what my major is set as right now. And I'm actually thinking of switching my major to speech pathology because of this experience. So it's been very eye-opening, and it's a great program I've been happy to take part of.
If you have to do hours for your license, we'll be able to help you.
Okay.
You want to talk a little about the summer opportunity based off of you?
Sure. So for the summer, they're allowing me to come back 2 days a week, and each shift is usually between like 10 and 12-hour shifts, so they're long day shifts. But for the summer, they're allowing me to do like 6 hours for 2 days, which will be really good. And I got CNA certified, so I'll be able to get paid like on site there. It also like helps like open an opportunity for college too, for clinicals, and like I'll be able to go back there for clinicals and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the paper, just like Emma, is going to have me back there for 2 days a week. It won't be the same number of hours. I think it's probably going to be around 4. They'll just have me write more stories for them. I'll get to go to some more committee meetings, which actually will be very fun and I think influential, see how that all operates. But yeah, I'll just be 2 days a week most of the time, and then on site at the committees, and we'll be paid for that time as well.
I actually already have a different full-time job for the summer. It's another childcare position for the YMCA. It's a summer camp. However, I've made connections while at the Doyle, and I'd be happy to go back there any other time when I'm out for college.
Pretty amazing, just reading some of a lot of the journals and things that they wrote, just for example, not even thinking about maybe speech pathology, then I'll potentially a 7-week internship could potentially change the trajectory of a path. But just to learn more about it, the whole point of it is to be exposed as much as possible to help figure out if you do or don't want to pursue those types of careers. So I thought it was great that Daisy learned those types of things. Ben, he came and interviewed me for one of his articles, so I mean, he's very excited to come in. He wrote an article about the new school, new building. And I think just finished a 12-hour shift. You just came from a 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. today to come here tonight to talk. So appreciate after a 12-hour shift. That was nice of you. So, but this is just an example of 3. And so, I mean, if we can grow this program times however many, I think it's pretty amazing what this potential could be. Before I do forget, we are going to have this Thursday, we're having a breakfast here at the library for all of our interns. Some of their employers are able to come as well. It's in the library, and Sue Lacey and her culinary students are preparing the breakfast for us. That's amazing. But all of you are invited. I can send out an official invite if that helps, but all of you are more than welcome if you're available to come in and kind of celebrate the first year of our internship program. Each student's going to have a few minutes to kind of get up and explain similar to what they just did tonight, with either a little PowerPoint or a trifold or some type of project to explain. So while everybody's eating, kind of take turns and explain what they did with their internship. So that's this Thursday at 9:30 in the library. So looking forward to next year, hopefully growing the program to build up the database of employers, different strategies on how to grow that. I think the key thing in my opinion is it's better to grow it slower and have it be legitimate than everyone gets an internship and then other schools, we've heard that, and sometimes like, well, I just kind of sat at home and didn't really do it. But so I think if we start out slow and make sure that these types of internships, I want to focus on growing those types of things moving forward. So I just want to thank all the students for coming in tonight. I know it's not easy to
Thank you.
in front of people.
Yeah.
Any questions or anything?
Anybody? Kevin?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm a high school teacher, so I've seen seniors, like, for the last 26 years, and it's hard. Like, the end of senior year is rough. Like, everyone knows that they're about to go, they're finishing up their coursework, and a lot of times they're just like, oh, I want to get out of here. I want to, be gone and move on with my life. But you guys had this opportunity to actually do something that's kind of career adjacent or at least exploring something you might like want to do down the road. So I guess my question in terms of building up the program, honest question, did you guys like talk to your friends and were you just like saying this is so much better than sitting in class? Like, no offense to English, sorry. Language teachers, but like, were you just bragging about the opportunity? Because I think if I was you, I would be pumped to be doing this.
Yeah, definitely. I see where you're coming from. Honestly, like talking to my friends that are still in school, like the fourth quarter is hard as it is like for any age group, but especially seniors knowing like you're almost out of school, it's almost done. A lot of people like are like, just get this last quarter over with. Nobody really honestly focuses much anymore. But like this was like an opportunity to like get out of the classroom and focus on what I was doing like for what I want to do for the rest of my life, you know what I mean? And it was just to have that like opportunity at like such a young age to like figure out what I could be doing for the rest of my life was like a cool experience for me. Like even though it's a 12-hour shift and that's like double school, I'm still like on my feet learning different activities, like stuff that they don't teach you in school. But
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Emma said, there was a lot of times when my friends would be reaching out and asking how it was going. I'm like, well, I'm just sitting at a desk and I'm just writing. Like, that's it? That's all you're doing? It's very self-explanatory, but it's been very fun. It's been a great opportunity. I mean, you're just at a desk, you're typing away for them, the deadline, and it's been a fun privilege. So I think to have a little portion, like a small, like 7-week period, just you, the internship, your boss, and then the assignment they give you, it's just a nice opportunity for your brain to kind of focus on what you want to do outside of school, and then in college, and then after that.
I feel like it also motivates you a lot more because it's like what you're going to be doing. It's like targeted towards you exactly, and not just like a variety of everything. Like, oh, you're going to math, then science, then English, then social studies. It's like I'm focusing on my career path and my career path only. Like it's whatever happens out of it, it benefits me.
Yeah, you were asking if I was like bragging to my friends about not being in school, and I would tell my friends that graduated that I'm participating in the pilot internship program, and everyone was jealous, honestly, that they couldn't have done it. I'm excited to see where it goes. And yeah, like both Emma and Ben said, it's really great that I get to do what I'm passionate about as opposed to just, or I have been able to do that for the past 7 weeks as opposed to just going to like all my required classes. I'm just focused on what I want to do with my future.
That's great. Anyone else? Alex, Tom?
Sure. So I guess first, congratulations and a thank you for this. I mean, you mentioned that this is a pilot year, and it certainly was, but it's going to be groundbreaking. You know, you've now raised the bar, Mr. Robinson, right? That these guys have set a standard for which, next year's seniors are going to have not only to aspire to, but to be excited for. So. And a year ago now, when we sat here kind of listening to the principal and Mr. Robinson, pitch this concept, and obviously with Dr. Lyons' leadership and working with the business community, it was pretty exciting for us to hear, and now a year later, it's even more exciting. So just a congratulations on that. Can I ask what your plans might be for next year? And I know that you've mentioned that some of this either has a tied in or maybe influencing a change. Is that can I ask what your plans might be?
Yeah, definitely. So I originally put down just health sciences for what I was going to major in college because I wasn't really completely sure what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to like go the route of being a doctor or like go into like just nursing or even just into like sports management or whatever. And so after doing the internship and getting to like follow around a nurse and seeing how many different types of nursing like roles there are that play in the hospital, I feel like that's what I'm passionate about. Like I want to go into nursing. So I emailed my college, I switched my major to nursing, and now they're talking to me about all the different types of nurses, and the people at the hospital are very supportive and like willing to answer any questions I have about like what floors they have for nursing, and it's just like really helped a lot actually.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, to piggyback again off of what Emma said, it's been very helpful. I mean, on my college application, I've always had English and journalism as the intended major, and it's just been something I've always wanted to do. It's been something I think I've been very passionate about over the many years at school. I think the school's done a great job of having a good English department. I had journalism this past year for senior year, and that was very helpful, and that helped reinforce that this is what I want to do at college and afterwards.
I've always known that, or I've known for a long time that I want to work with children for my future career, and working at the Doyle has definitely helped reinforce that passion. But yeah, seeing like the behind the scenes, like interworkings of a school system, like obviously teachers do a lot, but getting to know like the other counselors for more like niche situations, that's what's made me go in the direction of speech pathology. And I haven't switched my major yet just because I plan on attending Merrimack College in the fall, and their speech pathology program is still being developed. It should be, I believe it should be a major option this year, but I know that they're not finished completing that curriculum yet. But I do believe I want to switch my major from early education to speech pathology.
That's wonderful. Congratulations again. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Melissa?
So congratulations, you guys. It sounds like you had a great program. I'm really excited about this idea. I'm curious though, if there was anything that you could change about the program, what would it be?
Yeah, I don't know exactly off the top of my head what I'd change, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit more of like, not direction, but like, so kids don't like just take advantage of it and like stay home. Because I feel like it's very like lenient of what you can do with it. I feel like there's, you can either go above and beyond and you could work the full hours and really like put in the work and effort to benefit yourself, but then there's like some people that would take it as like an opportunity to be like, oh, I can just sleep all day, or I don't have to do anything and I can just fill out whatever I want on the report. I don't know exactly what I would say would change there, because people are definitely like either in Boston or like in like Beverly, so it's hard to tell, but I definitely think there should be a little bit more like requirements there. I don't know how you guys feel.
I think maybe just reinforce the fact that this is not an opportunity to slack off for the last 2 months of the final quarter. It's an opportunity to do some outside and personal growth and real world learning opportunities for those that want to take the risk and be involved.
Yeah, I agree. I think it very easily could have been like taken advantage of. Kind of like what Emma was saying, like there were days where my whoever was like my boss for the day would say like, oh, you can go home if you want, I don't know if we need you, and I would have to say like, oh, well, I actually have to complete 20 hours a week, so I can just go in the corner and like do some other work if you want. But yeah, I think maybe one thing that could be changed is it was kind of like, here's the internship program, tell us where you want to be an intern, but what if someone just wanted to do their internship at like, I don't know, like McDonald's or something.
Right.
Like I feel like there could be like categories where here are the available internships, even if like businesses wanted to reach out and say, we're looking for interns, put us out on the Wakefield internship program as an option. I think maybe that would get more kids into it, because yeah, it would just give people options that were like realistic career choices.
Yeah. I love that you all just said that, because like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, it's my biggest, not concern, but that's the biggest thing we need to control because that can happen easily. And so for this year, there were a few requests that we reached out and basically discovered it would be a kind of an internship at McDonald's, and
Yeah.
so the students did not participate. So we did do that a little bit. There were some that were trying to do that, but then we kind of panned it out and said, okay, it's just kind of your part-time job. So, but that is something we really need to continue to make sure we're on top of. And then we did reach out to all the employers to find out, what are they going to be doing? What are you going to be doing on a regular basis? Do you have enough to do that? So I think it's key to make sure that the employers are on page with that, like you just mentioned, you know what I mean? So I think that's really important. It's good feedback.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Dr. Lyons?
We are super proud of you. Nicely done. I think, thinking about what this program could be and hearing you talk about your experiences and the things that you now can put on a resume, right? The fact that you have, a body of work that's been published, and the fact that you're a CNA. I don't know who coached you to get that certification.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, it was a long process.
Right, but that's going to now lead to, it's going
Yeah.
to open the door for you to, if you are so interested, to get a full-time position at the hospital, or, to work in the summers in between school. So, and to work at Doyle, I think, and to be a speech language pathologist, it's a very difficult position to fill. So if you decide or you continue that, you will have your choice for where you might like to work in the future. So again, super proud of all of you. If we can help in any way, please keep in touch with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nicely done.
That's awesome.
Nicely done.
I was curious, Dave, from your perspective, I'm wondering what the feedback from the employers was like. So I've heard that you got feedback from students through a journaling mechanism. What was your mechanism for reaching out to employers and just seeing how students were doing?
Yep, so basically, there was similar, not assignments, but connections to the employers. I didn't get out to do site visits, things like that. I think moving ahead, it'd be nice to be able to do that if we could. But as far as getting feedback from them, all of it was extremely positive, saying that they're ready to take more next year, which is obviously a really good sign. So that was kind of a quick question. It was like, well, which was so great. Would you be willing to take another one next year? Yes, definitely. So everyone said they'd love to. There was one, we had a real estate student work with a realtor, and they seemed to absolutely love having the student help them out with open houses and putting listings together. And I think they even took it to like a networking thing in the city for a day. So the employers were really excited. And some of them expressed they couldn't make the breakfast, but they're so sorry because they'd love to be there because of such a great time. So I will follow up with them as far as more of a logistical feedback, as far as what worked for them or what would they change if they did it again. So I will follow up with that. I don't have those answers right now, but it's something we definitely need to do moving forward. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
I would say like a year ago when you sort of broached this subject and sort of gave the idea that, school committee asking if we could do this, I don't know what I was envisioning, but it certainly didn't raise to this sort of caliber. I think it wasn't, it was as good as any education that I think you could have gotten sort of being in this building. And it was so nice that you all could sort of reach out to the things that made you passionate and that you could either reinforce or find new pathways is awesome. And even the ideas when Melissa asks about what could make it better, your input and also just seeing how the program would work, you've kind of already done that. You've given a lot of data to sort of Ms. Robinson to sort of make this better for the people that might come behind you. So just thank you for taking the leap, for trying this out the first time. I think that's just brilliant, and I'm glad you all had a great experience. And thank you, Dave, for bringing this to Wakefield. It seems like a real winner. And for taking your time with it, as you say, and being methodical about it to do it right. That it's fantastic that we can have these outcomes for students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Congratulations on graduation. Thank you.
That's cool.
It's very cool.
I don't know if I would have scrubbed into a surgery at 18.
Right? It's just
It's impressive.
even getting a CNA cert, like that's a great way to get into a hospital.
Take care, good night.
So, Would you like to continue, or what would you like to do in terms of the agenda?
I would say your purview.
Okay. Next, we'd like to welcome our language curriculum team to talk about world language and curriculum review. Thanks for being patient.
Yeah, you can see what I'm saying.
So while they're getting set up, I just want to thank Erin, because I know she won't take a lot of credit, but her and Andrea is our curriculum liaison at Galvin, and Ruben Reynoso is our department coordinator at the high school. Just the three of them for their leadership throughout the year, with other members of the world language team. You've heard and seen other departments come before you to talk about curriculum review. This was our year for our world language curriculum review. So this work has been going on really since, the planning piece last school year, and then throughout the school year this year. So they're here tonight to present that work and share next steps for moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for being
much.
here.
Thanks for having me. So I hope I don't overstay my welcome tonight, honestly. I have many slides, and in all honesty, I haven't presented.
Do you have the clicker?
Do I have the clicker?
The clicker.
Okay, I didn't see it on the
Do you
table.
want to do that?
Okay, great.
I haven't presented about, oh, fabulous, it's right here, great. I haven't presented about about our curriculum and our curriculum instruction in 7 years. It's been a while. Typically, this review is every 5 years, but due to COVID-related issues and so on, it's been a while. So I feel like I have a lot to say. People are giving me a hard time about it, but I'll make it as brief and focused as possible, I promise. So again, thank you so much for having us tonight. As Kara said, I'm here with Ruben Reynoso, the World Language Department head at the high school, Andrea DeGray, the World Language Liaison at the middle school. I want to start by giving my thanks to Ruben and Andrea and the whole World Language Curriculum team for their ongoing support. Their names are up here: Sarah Bardet, Callie Bryson, Andrea DeGray, Caroline Lorenz, and Jenny Quigley and Graciela Pacheco. Their dedication and their effort to the work this year, diving deeply into our curriculum, our instruction, our instructional practices, our curriculum, has really been instrumental in allowing us to reflect on the progress that we've made this year. While our curriculum review team, I'm still on that last page, while our curriculum review team still consists of a smaller team.
Trying to speed you up.
What? While our curriculum review team consists of a smaller team, I can really confidently say that, and I think the team would agree, that the growth of our department has really fully extended to both departments, at the middle school and the high school. It has been a collaborative effort over these years. Every teacher, including our retired colleagues, we've had 5 retired colleagues over the past 7 years, has really contributed to this work in meaningful ways. Go ahead. I might need to get my water. Before I dive into the curriculum, I'd like to provide an overview of the structure of our program and the languages that we offer from grades 5 all the way through grades 12. So at the middle school level, our world language journey starts in the 5th grade, where students have a half a year of French and a half a year of Spanish as an exploratory program. It's usually around this time of year that students have the opportunity to really reflect on those 2 languages and make a choice to what they would like to study for the next 3 years during grades 6, 7, and 8. And again, the choices are French and Spanish. When they transition into the high school, they have 4 choices. Well, they can choose to continue that same language, obviously, of French and Spanish, or they can switch languages. We offer 4 languages: French, Latin, Italian, and Spanish for in-person instruction, and we also have 2 online courses, Portuguese and American Sign Language. There's a 2-year...
So you got to the end.
I'm not done. There's a 2-year graduation requirement at the high school. And although there's 2 years, most students continue with their language experience into that 3rd year, and many students even continue on to that 4th year. You can go. Thanks. One of the first tasks of the curriculum review team this year, as part of the review, was to refine and revise our vision. through a series of collaborative tasks, meaningful discussions. Andrea was part of that. We created, I feel, a vision that really reflects our values. It reflects what we want students to get out of the program and what we would like teachers to achieve during that time. This is quite comprehensive and long, but I feel that if I summarize it, we are dedicated to cultivating global citizens through language and culture, developing proficiency for real-world applications, fostering empathy, respect, and open-mindedness, and we are committed to inclusivity and equity in our language education. Okay, the past 7 years, it really has been a collaborative effort, again, for the middle school and the high school. This visual here reflects the steps that we went through to get where we are right now, starting with the adoption of the new World Language Standards of Massachusetts, ACFL core practices, aligning our units and our instruction to those ACFL core practices, to those new World Language Standards, incorporating new resources. We are continuously engaging in professional development through this whole time, and then again, continuously designing new units, implementing effective strategies. I purposely put, I know I'm kind of a grammar dork right now. I put these in the present progressive form purposely, and I put it in a circle, really kind of reflecting how our teachers instruct. We are constantly in motion. We're constantly adopting, constantly aligning, incorporating, reflecting on our practices, engaging. So it's a constant motion, and I feel being reflective on our practices and then making adjustments to meet the needs of our students is really at the core of what we're doing. Okay, so to kind of go back to that, to the foundational work, back in 2018 when we started exploring, really educating ourselves on the Massachusetts World Language Standards and the ACFL core practices. In 2018, the Massachusetts World Language Standards were 20 years old at that point, and they were in desperate need of revision. So instead of really focusing on those, we decided to focus on the ACFL core practices. So we spent a lot of time during our professional development, during PLC time, really focusing on those core practices, starting with planning with backwards design, designing communicative activities, and using the target language for learning. In 2021, the World Language Standards were finally revised, and there were a lot of changes within that. So instead of having just the 5 C's of communication, cultures, comparisons, connections, and communities, there were 3 larger domains of communication. There was the second domain of linguistic cultures, and the third one is lifelong education. And there are 10 practices within that, which they're pretty large, and there's a lot of information within that. I would feel that the biggest impact on our instruction and on our curriculum was under the communication standard. So instead of having one broad communication standard, they focused on all 4 modes of communication, and that really was a shift for us and a large shift for the World Language Standards. So really focusing on interpretive communication, interpersonal presentation, and intercultural. The second large difference between the two, instead of, let me kind of go back to my notes here for a second. Instead of focusing on really benchmarks for students to hit, we were aligning our practices, we're aligning the standards for more proficiency-based instruction and giving students feedback on their proficiency levels, which Ben's going to mention in a couple of minutes. That was a huge shift in our practices. Instead of having like certain benchmarks for students to hit, it was more of a continuum, like where are you on the proficiency scale, and that it's a very fluid motion, and giving students feedback on how to level up was really a big difference in that. So continuing, but what does that really look like in the classroom? So making more of a shift towards a proficiency-based classroom, some of the focus areas were again, focusing on all modes of communication. And obviously, we're focused on communication in a world language classroom, but really being intentional about designing our activities, designing our assessments to hit all four modes, or all four modes of communication was a shift. And really teaching the students about that too. It wasn't just that we were doing that, but making intentional that we are doing this activity because we want to improve your interpretive listening skills or your interpretive reading skills or your presentational communication skills. So the students also have that language. It's just not language that we were using, but they could actually understand, and they actually could get a better understanding of where they're strong or where they may need to really improve on. So having them be more empowered with that language was really important. Our units are centered, our units are more student-centered learning through can-do statements. Students really being empowered through can-do statements that they said that what they can do with the language. Like, so for example, a can-do statement is I can give my opinion about winter activities in Quebec, or I can give I can compare school lunches, Andrea loves that unit, school lunches around the world to school lunches here in Wakefield, Massachusetts. So there's that comparison can-do statements that are a little bit upper level, and some of the basic ones about talking about some of the activities that you enjoy. Our units are definitely more culturally based, cultural integration, authentic resources, really starting with the cultural piece and supporting it with vocabulary, supporting it with grammatical structures, instead of the reverse of having it grammar-based and then supporting it with cultural aspects. Embedding communicative activities and performance-based assessments, and having those based on real-world applications and real-world scenarios. And that last one, I think, is one of the, again, I touched upon this earlier, is one of the biggest shifts, is having proficiency-based scales that were aligned to the ACTFL proficiency scales and giving students feedback on where they are on that continuum. And that took us a while. That took us a while to really come together. Ruben's going to talk about that, to have a common rubric that everyone is using from grade 5 all the way through grade 12. It was a work that I'm really proud of. On the sides over there, those are some examples of one of the resources that we're using, Audio's textbook that I'll talk about in a moment. Again, if you'll see, most of our units are culturally based, talking about ecotourism in Costa Rica, a week in Rome, homes around the world, talking about can-do statements so that I can tell the differences between homes around the world, ingredients in street food, and again, assessing students using integrated performance assessments on all 4 modes of communication, where Ruben's going to come in and talk about the rubrics.
All right, so if you look at this, this is our rubric that we're using to assess our students. So just like Erin said, so this is what we're using to kind of measure where kids are at. The nice thing about this is that everybody can do something. So that's what we're trying to focus on. That's our can-do statement. So every single student, so when I first got into teaching world language many years ago, I used to hear from the parents, I took French for 4 years, I can't say a thing. So we kind of just went around that, where we're just focusing, it's not so much about knowing about the language, but what can you actually do? So everybody's different. So if we want to differentiate between a novice low or a novice mid, these are some of the things that you should be able to do. And this is stuff that we can produce and give to the students so they know exactly what they need to do in order to move to the next level. So this is what we're using for kids that are coming into us brand new in the language, and then what they need to do to pretty much move up steps. So in different things that we produce to the kids is sometimes you'll see a ladder, so they can kind of figure that out. It's like if you want to go to the next step, you know, you're not just producing words. As a parent of an 8, 7, and a 3-year-old, I can see this with my own children, that, you know, my 3-year-old is saying cookie. My 8-year-old, he probably already took the cookie, but he's saying, you know, completely different language. But just like our own kids at home, they're able to produce things. And then if we want them to move up, we're giving them specific things. So by using this rubric, they can kind of see exactly where they're at. We go over this with the students at the beginning of the year. This is where you're at. This is where you need to do. So just because language is not just grammar and vocabulary, it's an experience. We want them to have an experience with the language, and the way they can have an experience with the language is by having a rubric where they can actually measure what they're able to do. So we're kind of getting away from, if they're strong in a specific area, they can conjugate verbs. Those are things that I think that are very important. But now we're focusing on what can students actually do with the language, and it could be anything. And the neat thing about this, like I said before, is that every single student that we have, not to use a cliche, but there's no students left behind because somebody could do something with the language. Maybe right now you're a novice low, so you're just producing little words. Maybe someone in that same room is producing a word with a sentence. Maybe somebody else is putting and but in between sentences, so they're able to produce more. But everybody's pretty much producing the same thing at their level. So this is neat for our students because they're able to see exactly where they're at and where they need to go. And it's easier for the teachers to be able to measure. And when I say measure, that if I see that a student right now is a novice low, maybe I need to provide more comprehensible input to help them move up to the next ladder, to the next step. And then on the next slide.
Just for the record, we don't give this whole entire rubric to students. It's really overwhelming based upon the level that they are at. We would probably give them like 3 of those columns, and so they can see where they're at, where the target is, and then where they should be moving up at the end of the year.
And I think in this slide, it kind of says it a little bit better. So if you're looking at our level 1, whether they're in middle school or at the high school, they're going to start at the novice low. And at the end of the year, the goal is to be in a novice high. But we don't hold students back. If we see that somebody's at a novice high and they're producing language at that novice high, maybe we're going to move them up to intermediate. And how do we do that? Sometimes we can give them like a voluntary reading. Maybe we can provide a little bit more vocab. But the nice thing about this is that everything kind of aligns. Like most of our languages are learning the same information. And most of our levels, actually all of our levels are learning the same information. But the difference is, for me, for example, I'm teaching between CP and honors. All of my kids are learning the same information, but maybe my honors are moving more into the intermediate, mid, intermediate, high at a higher rate. And then the CP students are learning the same information, but maybe they're working at it at a novice mid, or maybe even at a novice high level to start out the year. And these rubrics pretty much just help us understand and tell our students what success looks like, because if they want to go to the next level, they know exactly what they need to do. And most of it is pretty self-explanatory when we look at this rubric, because it's going to tell them that it's producing words, then it's producing sentences, then it's connector words. So when my students are producing language, I'm able to give them feedback so they know exactly what they need to work on. So at the end of whatever the assessment's going to be, whether it's speaking or presentational or reading or writing, they're able to look at this rubric. It's like, okay, I need to use more connector words. And they'll know exactly what success looks like if they want to move up to the next level. Is there anything else?
There, Kevin.
Question?
Yep.
Do you find that you have students that are like advanced on one part of the rubric, but then like on a lower level on another?
Absolutely.
Because I'm like,
Yes.
like I did full immersion in Russia, like when I was in college, but I only had 3 semesters and everyone else had 5. So I was the completely uneducated person thrown into the wolves. And so I ended up like being able to speak real well, but it took a solid month and a half for the listening and understanding. So like, do you have kids that can write and speak, but the listening is...
Absolutely. And this is why I tell the kids, this is why I love this rubric, because not everybody's going to be strong in an area, but everybody can do something. So if I'm strong in listening, maybe the next assessment I'm going to focus a little bit more on writing. So maybe I'm going to be, focus on that part of it, because everybody is different. Some kids are going to be able to be strong in all 4 levels, all 4 modes, but then there's going to be some other kids that maybe struggle a little bit when it comes to the listening or the speaking. I mean, speaking is usually the last thing you do, because you're always listening, you're always reading, you're always writing, and maybe start doing a little bit writing, producing. But everybody's a little bit different. And there's some kids that, this is why they took the language to begin with. So they're really into the speaking, even if they make mistakes.
Yeah, I was the opposite. I was good at speaking.
We need to go back to that one, though, too. So just to kind of clarify, though, too, typically we assess students on just one mode of communication at a time, though. So we will have a presentational, like it will be a rubric like this, but you're being assessed on your presentational communication,
Okay.
or you're being assessed on your interpersonal communication, or your interpretive. So it's not, I mean, obviously the interpersonal kind of almost combines everything together, and that's probably the most difficult. But typically we try to focus on one area at a time so students get feedback of their strength in that area. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Correct. And if you look at this down the side, there are different categories, like you said, like for your vocabulary, for your pronunciation, for your comprehensibility, really. So you can get a feedback on like exactly like what area that you do need to work on.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm. Yeah, no, you're not up yet. Okay. So again, the rubric that we created here, again, was built upon the actual proficiency scale. That was just one new resource, so really a starting point to some of the shifts that we made towards a more proficiency-based classroom. We knew that we needed more resources that were aligned to the ACTFL core practices, to the Massachusetts new Massachusetts standards. So I have to say I love PLC. I'm not sure if all teachers love PLC, but to me PLC is like the heart of like when we get to collaborate, we get to talk about our practice, share resources. So it was during one of our PLC times at the high school level that Caroline Lorenz, one of our Spanish teachers, brought this beautiful unit outline in this great communicative activity that supported that unit to PLC and shared it with us. And I was like, where did you find this? She's constantly searching and doing research on, she's extremely creative. And the activity and the unit outline came from a program called Audio's Textbook. And it has been a game changer, honestly, for our department since that time. I researched it, found that it is a fabulous website. It is very comprehensive, very structured, with proficiency guidelines. It has so many authentic resources that support the units. It has can-do statements that support the units, integrated performance assessments to really fully assess students in the best way in all modes of communication. It has a toolbox, if you can see that small picture right there, that if I want to do an activity or an assessment on an interpretive listening, I click that and it will give me some examples for that unit I'm doing. It really is a fabulous tool, a fabulous resource that we've really implemented in all of our languages. What I love about it most, it is not created by this large education corporation. It is created by two former world language teachers. And you can tell that they are so insightful of what teachers need, what students need. They're so creative. So that is why I love it even more. Another reason why I love it is that it is not a stagnant online resource. They are constantly adding new units. They are constantly adding new authentic resources, graphic organizers, activities, and they'll email me or text me to let me know that they added something new. So during this time of year, there's the plans for the summertime. They say we just updated that unit. This might be something that your level 4 students will really love. Talking about these students that were right here, it's talking about like internships for the summer. Like that's what that unit's about. So it really that it will capture these students. They knew that we were traveling to Italy last year and they wanted really to build up their unit on fresh fruits in Italy. So they texted me ahead of time and they said, Erin, I know you're gonna be in Rome. Would you mind taking some pictures of some authentic pictures of the Italian marketplaces and send them to us? I haven't checked, but I did send them, but I'm not sure if maybe my pictures aren't that great. I'm not really sure. I don't know. But so it's just kind of, that's their mindset, is that it's, when they have better resources, they make some adjustments to the online program. And again, that online program supports all of our languages. I have to say the Spanish units are the most robust in that program. So therefore, we do have some other resources for our French units, our Italian units, and our Latin units to support those languages also for that. We're constantly adding authentic resources, again, like I've said multiple times, to our units. And I think, in addition to that, one of our other game changes is the addition to leveled readers in all of our from level 5. No, not for the 5th grade, but from level 6, from 6th grade. No, it's in picture books, right? From 6th grade all the way up to 12th grade. We were fortunate to have Bryce Headstrom. He is a comprehensible input guru. He has presented through the Bureau of Education and Research multiple times. I've seen him. He is fantastic and really talking about the importance of reading in a classroom, and really reading books and novels and talking about stories, because that's the heart of language, is really telling stories. He is phenomenal. You would love him. He is from, Andrea, help me out.
He's definitely out west.
He's out west.
Colorado.
He's extremely low key. He talks very slow. But he sparked an interest in our teachers for them to want to start building libraries in their classrooms. Libraries that students can read individually, and books individually, and also books that the whole class is reading, and that they have full discussions in that with those readers. I love the readers because they are leveled. So they are comprehensible for students, that students can read them fluidly. If you think about their proficiency level, that if, let's just say for our level 4 level 4 students, they should be at a novice mid. Typically, you might even give them a novice low book so they can really dive into it and understand it and not be looking up words or looking up conjugations of verbs while they're reading. They're really getting the meaning of the story, and they love them. They really do. They really love them. What I love about the majority of our readers is that they align with the units that we're doing. They also typically have a cultural component to it, so it's not just some silly readers. There's a cultural component. There's a lot of times some cross-curricular components to it. So, for example, our 6th graders are reading Capybara con Botas. Our 6th graders, Spanish kids, and our French students are reading Capybara con Botas, which takes place in Costa Rica. So they talk about the environment in Costa Rica and the importance of the rainforests. They're also talking about the water cycle. So we're talking about sciences and geography in the target language, and with some silly story about a little capybara that has to wear boots because his feet are not webbed, but it really is that students can connect with. We are continued that right there. That's a list of some of the readers, but there are so many more. And when we find books, we adapt those. As Andrew's ready to kill me most times, I'm like, let's do this book and let's do this. So, but it really has been a game changer, and I think an enjoyable part of the world language experience for students.
Can I just say one thing about this?
I know you love your readers.
So yeah, I'm huge into reading. So I was able to develop, because of Erin, and we were able to bring a few speakers in, I was able to develop a reading library. So my kids, it's free voluntary choice, and you can see them 10 minutes before I start the lessons. They're reading, they're actually getting into it. And some kids don't want to stop reading. That's one thing. The second thing about the novel readers is that the most exciting thing as a language teacher is when kids get what's happening. Like my seniors, they're laughing at some of the jokes, and it wasn't just one student, it was like most of the class. So when you see that, you get excited because this is stuff that, kids are actually doing something that they love. And then the last thing is about Adios textbook, that has been a game changer, like Erin was saying, because it's real life application. So it's stuff that they're actually doing. So it's talking about sports. It's talking about, there was a unit on the Super Bowl, and they updated it like right after the Super Bowl, the very next day.
Like some of the commercials that were in it, right? Yeah.
Some of the, what's your favorite commercial? So these are things that kids can do. So you talk about, whether they're novice or whether they're intermediate, they're able to do something with this, because sometimes it's just a yes or no, or did you like this? Do you like this one more than that one? So this is why this whole thing is exciting, because everybody's able to do something, whether it's a novel reader or whether it's one of our units from Adios textbook. And even though Spanish is the most robust, we're able to translate some of this into other languages if they don't have that unit completed, because I know that we share between languages. So it's been really exciting to be able to use this.
Okay, Andrea.
Oh, here we go. All right, well, I'm very excited to share with you guys about our professional development. As we know, Mrs. Manzi loves her PLC and our department meetings. And so we've really done a ton of work with these for so long. I mean, I've been working with Erin for over 20 years, so we've had our fair share of developing curriculum and working on professional development and what are our teachers going to really want to do. As a teacher, what do I want when I'm going to professional development? What is Erin? We've all been teachers, so we kind of know what it is that people are looking for. And so I feel like, especially in the last few years, we've really kind of, because of having all these amazing resources and things that we're excited about, it makes it a lot easier to kind of, move forward with that. And our whole world language staff, from middle school all the way through the high school, really have felt like the PD that we've had, including with our PLCs and our department meetings, has really been immediately applicable. So you can go to a PD session and you're like, oh my gosh, we're doing things right now that I can implement tomorrow in my classroom that's going to really make an impact. And we've had so many activities this year that our students are doing the next day, and we're like, oh my gosh, they loved it, it's so awesome. And we get so excited to do that. So I think that's really been important. And the presenters that we've had, the people that have come into our PD sessions, have just made such a positive impact on what we want to do for our students. And it just makes us so excited, and we actually look forward to PD. I know that's probably a lot of teachers might not feel that way, but we really do. And if you ask the rest of our department, they're not gonna they will literally tell you the truth. I asked them all today. I was like, if I say this tonight, you're gonna back me up, right? We have fun. I mean, it's just they have us do activities, and these RDO's textbooks women have come in and done the PD. We've had them on the computer. We've also had them come 4 times maybe.
Three times.
Yeah, okay, 3 times.
Yeah.
All right. And they have been coming since 2022, so we kind of have this rapport with them now, and we get excited about what they're going to tell us. What are we going to do today? And they've really inspired us to do so many new things in our classrooms, and we use so many authentic resources. We create all these activities, and because we're getting all this support from the PD, we're able to really make our kids more excited about learning language and not feel as intimidated by what language can be. So we've really the other thing we've really worked on, because of being able to have all this amazing PD, is we've been able to really strengthen our lessons. We've been able to create a ton of common assessments, which is something that we've really been striving towards, which has always been kind of a struggle for us, just because we teach so many different levels, and also trying to just manage all the, we have the kids different days during the week. It just can be complicated. So we've really worked hard to develop these things, but we're able to because we have this amazing resource, and a lot of different other resources too. But I would say that our students from grades 5 all the way through 12 are really becoming better speakers, readers, writers, listeners in our world language classrooms. They're really feeling that confidence because we're confident that they can do it. And like we were talking earlier with all the different proficiency levels, if you can just say a couple words, that's awesome, so they're not so stressed out about that experience, oh my gosh, I can't speak a language, so it's really exciting. And we were just talking about the readers. That's been one of our goals for our students and for ourselves, is to really implement that this year, not only with reading the books, but listening, picking up on context clues, having the students be able to really use their prior knowledge to be able to give us information. And watching the students right now, in the middle school, we do the readers towards the end of the year for 4th term. We make it it is so exciting. We're going to read these books, and they get really into it. And 4th term is always a challenge. It's kind of made it a really great experience. And we've gotten all this information from Adio's textbook, try this technique, try this, do this different thing. And the kids really are excited about all of those. And we also are able to have this really bridge between the middle school and the high school, which we've worked so hard to get, where kids can be in 5th grade, and then they could be all the way up as seniors, and they might be doing one of the same activities, but just at a different level. So, it might be hitting fly swatter on the board, and the little 5th graders love it, but the seniors in high school love it too. It's just at different levels, and it's really cool that we have that consistency now that we've worked really hard. towards. And I think overall, it's really reinforcing the vocabulary that we're teaching, the grammar skills, all those things are still being enforced, and we're really learning how to do it efficiently.
Yeah. I agree.
And I think that all of this, our lovely curriculum coordinator here has brought us all kinds of fabulous professional development. Well, you have, it's great, I'm just saying. And it's really sparked our enthusiasm. So, not that all of us are pretty enthusiastic people anyway, but this really has, like Erin and I say, every time we go into the audio textbook, it's like diving into a rabbit hole.
It is.
Like, you could be there for hours, because there's so many good things. You're like, okay, hold on, I only have half an hour, like figure out which ones we like the best. But we're really kind of putting that together. We've created like Google Classrooms for all of our teachers so that everyone has activities that they can go to. Like if I'm teaching this unit, boom, boom, boom. I have all these different things I can work with. So we've really been able to like make it easier for even new teachers coming in, people that maybe haven't taught that grade level before. It's like not overwhelming because they can just go on and be like, oh, okay, there's a reading assignment for this, there's a writing assignment, there's games for this. So it really helps all the teachers, I think, overall.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. I love these pictures. I'm sorry, but this is having my middle school and my high school teachers together, working together collaboratively is like honestly one of the best things. It's like having your classroom when you're just the facilitator and your students are doing the work, but having the teachers there is really, really nice. Yeah. Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, they make us do the activities, by the way.
Exactly.
We actually have to do them.
Yes. So in addition to having our time to collaborate and work on our instructional practices, in activities. We have spent some of our professional development time, especially during NEASC, is creating curriculum guides. And like Andrea said, which are so important on so many different levels. Having new teachers come in and have these very organized curriculum guides, curriculum templates for them to follow along in the curriculum is really important. We have them for our internal use, again, for our teachers, but we also have them public facing. This is just new this past year during our curriculum review process, but also during the NEAS process. Margaret Messier made beautiful curriculum templates that are the same across all content levels. So, all content areas. And that are now public for viewing for anyone to see. So our work is transparent, our resources are transparent, the curriculum that we're implementing is transparent to the public, and then again, we use them internally also. So that is something new on our public website that to me is a game changer. It's really nice. It's really nice. So yes, that online with the curriculum templates is gorgeous online, yes. But to me, to really get an idea about what our world language program is about and what's happening, you really need to see it. You really need to see what's going on in the classroom. And I think this is what I love about my job the most, is really getting into classrooms and seeing the teaching and the learning happening right there and then. If you visited our classroom, you'd see teachers using the target language for effective strategies. You'll see students engaging in cultural events or using authentic resources to engage in interpersonal conversations. Teachers like Raisa Conifrey giving feedback to students about their proficiency level and how they can level up. Students working with the level readers in the corner down there. So really getting into the classrooms, you can really see this work live, and really seeing the students enjoying it, to me, is the best part of my job. I'm working with you. So not only, obviously, are we dedicated to building cultural awareness and proficiency inside the classroom, but also inspiring language and culture globally and locally. We have been so fortunate with the support of all of you, with our administration and our teachers, to have students travel the world. We have students traveling from Spain and France, Italy and Greece, Switzerland and Quebec. Hundreds of students over the years have been able to travel, and seeing them really immersed in the culture, immersed in the food and language and activities has been phenomenal. It really has been one of the best experiences of my life. But we also want to inspire students to do the same type of work locally. If you don't have to travel the world to expand your cultural knowledge, just by visiting. We are so lucky that we live 20 minutes from Boston. and the amount of activities and places that they can visit to build that awareness is just as profound. We organize field trips to museums and exhibits, to test kitchens. That's our new Italian teacher, Silvia Tucci, at the kitchen in Melrose, making fresh pasta. Dos Manos Kitchen, we had them in Susan Lacey's kitchen, making arepas, and this year they invited us to come to their kitchen. So really just inspiring that to continue that spark of cultural awareness for the rest of your life. I'm hoping I can really inspire them and that it will continue. All right, so continuing on. Continue on back to some curriculum. So to continuing to support some of the upper levels of our classes for our juniors and our senior classes, we have formed a partnership with UMass Boston and have started 2 dual enrollment courses for our upper levels. Back in 2021, we hired Callie Bryson, our Latin teacher, and she really spearheaded this initiative of starting a dual enrollment course in Latin. So in 2021, we started readings in Latin literature. From there, Risa Conifray was like, I would love to do this also. So Risa, again, we worked with UMass Boston, and Risa started Spanish language and culture. These courses are growing in popularity with our students and have been a phenomenal addition to our curriculum. Students are able to participate in rigorous curriculum through UMass Boston, experience the content and the standards of a college-level course. They earn college credits through UMass Boston, and they gain AP credit through our school. We work with the directors of language at UMass Boston to approve our curriculum, approve our syllabus, and then we put it forth into the classroom. So Callie and Christ are actually teaching the courses at the high school, so it's very accessible for students. And in addition to that, at the end of the course, we're hoping that our students, or our goal, I should say, is to have our students at the intermediate high level. That is, if you take a look at here, it doesn't seem that high, but that is a high level of language at the intermediate high level, where students can use a variety of words and phrases and expressions. They can speak in paragraph length. They can write in paragraph length. They can understand conversations that are with vocabulary that they know, and some vocabulary that they really have to extend their background knowledge to figure out the conversation. Having students meet that intermediate level of language, we're hoping that we can prepare them for the seal of biliteracy, which is on the next page. The seal of biliteracy, we implemented that in 2020. And in the seal of biliteracy, I'm not sure if I did present on this a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if everyone is aware of what it is, but it's an award from the state of Massachusetts that recognizes students who have attained a high proficiency of language in English and at least one additional language. And it really is, it's an honor to receive this award. Students have to produce language. Typically, we test students through the STAMP test, but they have to produce language at a intermediate high level of language at all 4 modes of communication, which is a difficult task, especially like Ruben said, with the output, with the speaking part, is difficult. We've had increasing numbers of students participating in the seal of biliteracy, and we've had great outcomes, and we've seen great gains with our students with their language. If you see here, the languages that we've tested the students from: Arabic, French, Greek, Haitian Creole, Italian, Latin, Mandarin, Portuguese, and Spanish. And I'm hoping the languages just blossoming into even more. And expanding horizons. So of course, I'm always looking for more. What else can we do? How can we expand our world language program? I have been working with Estelle Burdick and Anna Gonzalez to start an after-school immersion program at the high school. I've also been speaking, I'm sorry, at the high school, at the elementary school, sorry, at the elementary school. I have been speaking actually with Todd Morse, who is the after-school director in Arlington. They already have an immersive program in Spanish there, and it's very well established. So I've been speaking to him about his program and really would love to model that structure that they have. And we're actually going to, Anna and I are going to visit tomorrow to see one of their activities that they have the students participating in. The middle school, I'd love to expand on the stamp testing, not to have more testing, but just really to give students feedback of where their proficiency level is and to build that confidence of where they are. Expand the stamp testing at the middle school level and hopefully create maybe some type of enrichment program during our WIN block. I know that's always been a hot topic block, and maybe kind of dive into that area in the middle school level. And then at the high school level, I would love to continue some more dual enrollment opportunities into the other languages. Start National Honor Society with community outreach. I would love to, they now have Chinese language and culture on VHS, so to give students that opportunity in the upper levels to reach out for another language. And that last one is, we have 2 language clubs, so we have a Latin club and a Hispanic Heritage Club, but there's always room for more to really expand that time after school for students who are interested in doing so. And that was a lot, and I think we spoke. But really thinking about how important world language is for our students. It's my passion, and I would love to continue building the programs to support students in their language development.
Thank you. That was comprehensive and great. Pete?
I can't believe we made you wait 7 years to come back in front of us.
I know. That's what I said. It's been 7 years. It's a lot. I know. 17 slides. I know.
But the highlight was hearing how much you guys like professional development. No, I mean, I think you almost should like teach a course among curriculum leaders, like how to make professional development something fun and exciting.
Now, we've done professional development, yes.
So I was recently speaking to a parent of a student that has been through the dual enrollment program here and is going on to college to, I think, have a major in Spanish or a minor in Spanish. So just shows kind of the, what our programming can do for students. I have, many students that have been through the schools, and they've all given me positive feedback about their teachers they've had in world language. So I do want to pass on my appreciation. It's, I have a son who is extremely passionate about Spanish, as Ms. Manzi knows.
Yes, I do.
And he's had an opportunity to kind of move up and be challenged, which is nice. And I have a student who, is only in 5th grade, and she spoke highly about her experience in learning French and now Spanish, and just the experience she has had. So I just want to share my appreciation, and certainly, anything we can do to continue to help students get the same passion for language that all of you have, and my oldest son have. I would love to see us get more students excited about that. I think it's one of the things that, maybe we don't do as well in the United States as some other countries do, is, how do we get students to graduate school and truly be bilingual? And I also loved your statistic about the amount of students that are taking the stamp test and how that number is growing every single year as well. So thank you.
And just to really speak to what you said, is that we really do believe some students come into their freshman year in Spanish 2. And if we see a student really doing so well and having a passion for that language, we will level students up. You are not in one track that you'll go from level 2 to level 3 to level 4. We obviously have heritage students, we have multilingual students. So we really want to meet the needs of those students. So if we have a 9th grader of a student who speaks Spanish fluently at home, we're not going to put them in level 2 Spanish where they'll die of boredom. We will push those students up. And we actually use the stamp test many times to give students feedback of where they are and where we feel like the best position for them is to move them up.
Anyone else? Melissa?
Is that one of the reasons you want to start using STAMP more in the middle school?
Yes.
To give that opportunity to middle schoolers as well?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. I have actually tested some 8th graders because we do have some 8th graders that are doing very well with their language skills. And we do have some 8th graders that go from 8th grade to level 3. Typically, they don't skip 2 levels because we really do like to get students to have that foundation. And just because a student can speak very well and can understand doesn't mean their reading and writing skills are always that strong. So that's why giving that the STAMP test is very comprehensive, and it will really show students where their strengths and weaknesses are. So it can really give students feedback of where we feel like the best placement for them is. Yeah.
This is really an interesting presentation, and I can tell that you've been working on it for 7 years.
So I didn't want to leave anything out. I feel that our teachers have worked so hard at so many aspects of this that I would feel badly leaving one part of it out of Callie Bryson's fabulous job with the dual enrollment or Rice Conifray. So I really want to make sure that everything was included.
Actually, I wasn't being snarky. Like,
I know you weren't. No, I know you weren't. No, I know.
Anyone else? Alex?
So you mentioned about leveling students up, whether you have English language learners, but through those different categories that you assess them on, they may be heritage speakers, but maybe not necessarily at those other levels, right? So leveling up to another class may not be the best. Do you see enough of an increase, or maybe down the road, of students, English language learners for a particular language, whatever that may be, that you might have to create a heritage speakers world language class?
There's a lot of information about that, and I know that at one point we did think about creating a class for heritage speakers. It's complicated. I would never want to have a class just for heritage speakers because I think that every student should have access to any class. So I feel more passionate about providing some more upper level classes for students. Rice Conifray and I have spoken about that we have a dual enrollment program, and we have more and more heritage speakers, multilingual students taking that dual enrollment course as juniors. And after that course, we don't have another course for them to go to. We do have AP Spanish online. We're just talking about Spanish right now. Obviously, there's so many other languages that we could talk about in that same respect. But to thinking about adding one more course beyond that to meet the needs of students as they're leveling up faster and hitting that dual enrollment program, and thinking about where we could go beyond that is something that we've talked about. I haven't talked about the heritage as much.
A second question, I'm just noticing that the seal of biliteracy, the participants have gone up. I mean, with the outlier of post-pandemic year, right?
Yes.
It's gone up considerably with the number of participants. Is there something that in particular you would attribute that to?
I bribe them. No, there is some background in that. There is some background in that. I do seek out students. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, what do you think about this? Well, students that I really feel show a passion for the language and that are doing very well. There has been an increase as one of the requirements in our dual enrollment program for Latin and for Spanish. We are now asking students to take the seal of biliteracy test. So there is an increase from students not in that program, but also there is an increase because we're having the students take the course to give them some feedback about their language skills when they leave us.
Thank you.
That makes sense, yeah.
Dr. Lyons?
I love that you recruit the ranks and just like I love that, right? And so this is such a strong presentation and such a strong group. And I know, Aaron, you're always quick to, credit the teachers and the students. But this is, this leadership team is doing amazing work. And I've been in your classes, and you often crack yourself up in classes, It is super fun, and it's not missed on anybody. Mm-hmm. It's great for kids to be there. They genuinely enjoy coming in and being greeted the way you greet them and the spaces that you create for kids. There's no mystery there. You are really, really exceptionally good at that. And everything else is just beautifully falling into place. So thank you. And yeah, it's quite good.
No, I work with a phenomenal team. I really do. I know you'd say that, but I really do. They are exceptional. They are innovative. They're reflective. They are collaborative. We have a great time together. We really do. And I feel our students should be very fortunate to have a great group of teachers.
I love what you all said about kids can do something in this continuum, right? And so it's not about it's not a deficit perspective. It's just the opposite. It's like the cup is half full. It's you come with something. Let's see it. Let's hear it. And it's a little different. And I would argue exactly what we need. Nicely done.
I had a couple of questions. I would start off by saying I'm not good at language. I wish I was. I maybe just speak a different kind. But I know that members of every other member of my family loves language. They like to pepper me with Spanish in the house. Everyone does Duolingo. So I'm suffering. But I did appreciate the capybaras con botas. I didn't remember what it was until you said it. But I've heard it at home. And so I know my kids are engaged with it. And I just know that even sort of their peers and sort of other families, I know that we carry a high bar for foreign language in Wakefield Public Schools, and it's incredible. It's awesome to see. Sort of what Pete said before, having colleagues that work globally, others do it so much better than sort of we do at the stateside. And so it's nice to see us not sort of sink into that, but to rise and hold everyone sort of to a higher standard. I'm curious if you could talk about, because I hear this more anecdotally, not necessarily talking to you, sort of discrepancies between, let's say, sixth graders that choose Spanish over French. I feel like it's not a 50-50 split, just sort of anecdotal. I know they get it into 50-50. I'm wondering if that's not a bad thing, but just as foreign language educators, like, do you dig into that? Do you wonder why kids pick Spanish over French, or do you, so that's one, I'm curious about that.
Curious about the numbers.
Like why do you think kids gravitate towards? Is there a reason that they gravitate more towards Spanish, or?
I feel that students may be choosing Spanish over French because of their access to the language. Okay. I feel if you really think about the access to the Spanish language here in the United States, I feel it's more familiar to them. I feel even just watching from TV to the internet to TikToks to anything that they are really subjected to within our culture, I feel that so it might feel a little bit more familiar to them. Is my feeling. I don't know if you have anything else maybe to add to that.
No, I think that it's honestly it's not anything that's changed. I mean, it's been since I've been at the Galvin for 22 years, and it's always been that much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
I was hoping a trip to Quebec would make my kid pick French, but
they always get upset about that. I'm like, if Mexico is as close as Quebec, but they do like that option. But
I do feel if you look at the Spanish language and its similarities to English, I feel if you're looking at cognates within that, which we try to use at the lower levels, I feel that students can connect with the language a little bit more in the Spanish language than the French language. I mean, it's beautiful. French is beautiful. Yeah. But again, from, I think, just a cultural standpoint of living in the United States and the amount of Hispanic people we have speaking Spanish in the United States, I think just really hearing that and being familiar with that influences their decision.
Great. My second question would be, in terms of how much fluidity do students have to move between a language if they decide in a given year, maybe I've had enough of this, I'd like to try, maybe I took French during my middle school, and then maybe now I want to try Italian when I get to the high school, or maybe you do that freshman year of French, and now you're like, now I want to try something different. Do we have entry points for students to...
Fluidity between when they're at the middle school level or when they...
I guess both, because I think what I saw in your presentation is that you're locked in for, it looked like you were locked in for 3 years. You pick in 5th grade what you're going to do for 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
Is there no fluidity there? If a kid picked a language, they couldn't move to
There
the other?
typically isn't, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean there's not exceptions to the rules.
Okay.
Typically, we have students really think about what language they would like to study for the next 3 years. And we've thought about having students choose in 5th grade. In all honesty, some studies say that the exploratory program is not the best way to start, that really students should be diving in 5th grade and giving them more hours within that language. I feel a little hesitant about that. I like students to really have an experience of listening to both languages, being instructed in both languages culturally and with the language itself before making that decision. But it is hard, right? I mean, we would always make exceptions if students are in a language and they said, I really need to get out of this language. Miss Metcalf is driving me crazy. I don't know, for whatever reason, Mr. Gray is driving me crazy. We could always make exceptions, but we really ask students to be thoughtful in their decision, because the more hours within that one language, obviously, the more developed their language skills are going to become.
Yeah.
We haven't had too many kids there
We
really
haven't.
hasn't been barely any kids who have, but I mean, I teach 5th grade, I've taught all the levels, so there's never been really a case where they're like, I just don't like this, or I don't like that. It's very rare.
I also think that them knowing that when they hit high school, they have the opportunity to continue that language and or switch to another language. So I think that the horizon is pretty close, that knowing that you're not locked into that language until you graduate, that you will have some more opportunities as you progress through the years.
That's great. I wonder, as the space that you sit where kids could pick, do I become more proficient in this, or do I move over a little bit laterally and try and start something new over here? I don't think there are many other sort of courses or areas of study that you can sort of do that same thing. So it's unique in that way. And
It is unique in that way. And when Ruben and I present at the back to school, not back to school night, it's the 8th grade night at the high school, we talk to parents about trying not to influence their children of what they choose, which is really hard, right? Because we want to influence our children. But going into 9th grade, they do not have a lot of choice. There are classes that they have to take. And world language is definitely one that they can own, right? That they can really make that decision, should I stay with that same language, or should I veer off and start from ground zero again? And I stress to the parents, let them make that decision. Because if they don't like it, it's on them. It's not on you, right?
You did do a great job with that, you know.
What?
We made our children take Spanish.
Oh, yes, I did. I did make our children.
little
Yes, I did influence our children on what to take, right? But at the same time, I don't practice what I preach. But at the same time, I think that is really, again, to have ownership of, that you chose that language, I think is really important.
yeah, I think to have passion about what you're going to study. And it's funny because I just have this discussion with my student about a musical instrument. And I'd rather not put them in something, I'd rather them sort of have passion about it.
Yes.
And the same thing with sort of world language.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. And it is, and it's right, the energy that you folks sort of bring to it, I know is present in the classroom. And that's why we do have students sort of.
It is the loudest hallway.
Yeah. It's loud.
No doubt, and usually the most colorful.
I get in trouble sometimes with the music.
Yeah.
Salsa music.
Yes.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. I can sit in my office and know what's going on in everyone's rooms because everyone's so loud. Or kids are in the hallway. I feel like in our classrooms, it's active learning. I think that's what's so important. It's active learning, not passive learning. Students are communicating, they're walking, they're talking to each other, they're in the hallway, they're doing presentations. It's very active learning, which is really nice, and students need.
Yeah.
They need,
Great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we won't keep you to 7 years next time. If you want to
No,
come back
I'm just
in
giving you a
4
hard time.
even. Yeah. All right.
I know
I'll come back
the
anytime.
pandemic threw off our curriculum review.
No,
cycle.
it did. It did
Yeah,
throw it off. It did.
Yeah.
But before I go, I want to thank you, honestly, for supporting the World Language Program. I know that's not across the board in all districts, so I really do appreciate the support you give me with my teachers, with our PD. That is honestly, Kara, you have helped us, so much. Anything I'm like, I would really love to do this. Yes, you can do that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, meeting's gonna be so.
It always gets this way with curriculum. We're nerds.
So I have comments and updates, and then back to school choice.
Yes, please.
Okay. Just some very quick comments. On last Thursday, Friday, I'd like to thank principals and faculty and staff that organized Memorial Day ceremonies and celebrations. Paul Cancellieri, our Veterans Advisory Board leader, I don't think he misses one of these at any of our schools, speaks at all of them, and we can't thank him enough. He's doing such a nice job. He's had his hours expanded, and I think he's doing a really nice job with the veterans here in town. So that's what was happening on the 23rd. Kind of looking ahead, we have band events on the 28th, 29th. We have 6th grade on the 28th, 5th grade on the 29th at Galvin. On the 31st, we have Soldiers and Sailors Memorial from 12 to 4, right? On the Common.
Yep.
And so we're just an FYI, we got a question last week about Burnett Field. We're back on Burnett Field. We're practicing and playing there, and that seems to be working well. And on July 1st, we welcome a new Commissioner of Education here at Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, Dr. Pedro Martinez, not the pitcher. And so, so we're excited to see what that will bring, and that's a quick summary of comments and updates. Are we missing anything, Kara?
Ted, could you just, whoever's watching, could you just give an update on that, the fire department being at the high school?
Sure. This past weekend, Sunday, right? Correct?
Yep.
So Sunday, the fire department responded to the high school. So there was some issue with power that resulted in a generator coming online. And our diesel generator puts off a lot of smoke, and the smoke tripped an alarm, and so which resulted in fire department responding to the high school here, the high school cafeteria. There was it was smoke outside of the building, and so there was not an emergency, but crisis averted, and it was quickly dealt with, and everyone was updated, and we're kind of moving forward there.
Great. Yeah, appreciate the fire department's timely response.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's kind of the many happenings around town in this time of year. It's a super busy time. We also have graduation, of course, on the 7th. The WMHS graduation on the 7th at 10 a.m. Right? So excited about that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So the only thing I have left is school choice. To kind of close out that proposal, and then to seek a motion from the committee.
Okay. So we had our public component of school choice. We didn't have any public feedback. The superintendent sort of gave his recommendation that we have in front of us. I suppose we could make a motion on the superintendent's recommendation and then have a discussion for that. So if you would like to.
Sounds good. Move that the school committee approve the superintendent's recommendation on school choice for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second. Motion's being seconded, and then discussion. Would anyone like to discuss? Mr. Markham?
Well, who was first? Oh, me? Yeah.
Oh, you beat him to the draw.
I beat him to the draw, okay. So, this was one of the topics that I'll rope a little subcommittee report into this.
Sure.
The finance subcommittee, the last two of our subcommittee meetings had this as an agenda item, and certainly going back to some of the budget development times back in the January February period. So just to put it out there that the subcommittee did not take a position other than to say that within the financial context, it is certainly very worthy of this conversation, that we are in a different year, a different time, and we need to have a different need. And because of really that, the financial context that we're facing, it is certainly an appropriate, conversation for us to be having in a different way than we've typically had it for a number of years now, when the committee and the administration have agreed, not to move forward. I think. So certainly in light of that, part of our conversations have been, and I would certainly strongly endorse that, finances, as we know and we've heard and we've discussed at great length around these tables and at the subcommittee meeting, finances are getting tight. They will continue to get tight in the coming years. The very high possibility of grants being reduced is real, although unknown, but it's a concern. We've heard at great lengths from the administration about how we are relying on our revolving funds, and we are facing a fiscal cliff with the use of those in coming years. And certainly we've heard from town officials that we need to be very mindful about our continued asks in the 6% range is really not sustainable. So it's certainly reasonable for us to be looking at all opportunities to bring in additional resources, and I think this is one of those opportunities. I think in some ways we owe it to the taxpayers to look at every possibility. We balance that, of course, against with our enrollment and our need to have appropriate class sizes. We certainly want to pride ourselves on modest and low class sizes, but when we have spaces that possibly can be filled, we need to take that into consideration too. And I think that with the superintendent's proposal to approach this in a very modest way for next year by adding 22 seats across grades 2 through 12 is an appropriate, slow and modest start. We also looking at the profile. It was something that we talked about at last Friday's subcommittee meeting. There were some that may be are concerned or misunderstanding what the profile of a school choice student may be, and certainly any student in the Massachusetts could certainly apply. So there's the admission process is blind, as in many ways it should be. But what is typically known through some data that the Department of Education puts out, what a typical school choice student is in terms of profiling, is by and large an academically strong student who may be looking for a academically proficient district. Maybe it's a student who's coming looking for Wakefield because of its strength in the arts, in band. Maybe a musically inclined youngster who's at a school or a school district that such program isn't as strong. So we also want to be able to balance an appreciation of what the student profiles actually could be. We could be certainly in many ways adding to our student population and adding some growth and depth. I think it's also fair to say, to be objective, it's not a program that has had much capacity in diversifying. It is not a program where we're going to see a lot of diversification, coming, whether it's ethnic or racial. That's not really the profile of the majority of school choice students across the state. So I think it would be unfair to say that this is a benefit, a potential benefit. And the last thing that I would add, just in my advocacy, which wasn't part of our conversation last Friday, and I think it slipped my mind at the time, but we presently have 11 Wakefield students who choice out of Wakefield at a cost to the school district of $95,000. So our capacity to potentially bring some students in might help offset what is a loss off our cherry sheet. So with that in mind, I think there's enough here between the superintendent's proposal as well as what the type of things that the subcommittee has discussed to give it a shot and to see where the district may bring us, or where the program may bring us, in a year. So I intend to vote in favor of the superintendent's recommendation, and I would urge the committee to do so as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members? Pete?
Tom, I think you did a really nice job summarizing kind of some of the same feedback I have as well. I also plan to support the superintendent's recommendation. The main thing that was going through my head as I thought about this is just what Christine tells us all the time. I mean, as you said, we're a couple of years away from hitting that fiscal cliff. We've been spending down those revolving accounts to try and give as much money back to the town. And, we want to try to keep these programs in place that our superintendent and his administration spent a lot of time to build up. And I think this is an opportunity to perhaps look at reducing the burden that we're going to ask the townspeople to have to perhaps kick in a couple of years down the line. I also like that it, can be looked at as a one-year trial to see how it goes. It doesn't mean all 22 seats get filled. It does mean we're committed to them as long as they want to stay in the district. But we could then look at it next year and we could say, how are those students doing in the district? Does it look like this is positive for the district? And look at what we would do going forward. So I can't say, I want to support this forever. But I think if we look at it then we could have some information that we've never been able to have because we've never chosen to participate in school choice that would then allow us to decide if this is something we want to continue to invest in, because we are building this beautiful new high school. It's going to have a lot of additional seats. We already have a lot of seats at the high school. And it would just be nice to be able to reduce the burden on the taxpayers if possible. And this seems like a way to see how well this program would work in town.
Thanks, Pete. Kevin?
Yeah, some of my concerns about the proposal, so the two arguments that you laid out real well was the budget ramifications, that idea that this would help offset our financial issues, and the other is class size, right? Now, in terms of the budget, I'm just concerned, and we had this discussion when this was brought up the last time, whether or not if we did get students that required additional special educational costs, to what extent would we be on the hook for those additional costs? So I think it's 22 students is the proposal that's on the table right now. So 22 times 5,000 as the cap, so we're getting clear. What was that, $110,000? If it was an automatic guarantee that it was $110,000, like in this proposal, I definitely see the merit in that could help offset costs. One question I had is, is there any way, looking at other districts, if we can quantify the odds on the return of the investment? Like, if to what extent are we guaranteed, that? Because the number one argument for this has nothing to do with education per se, but really has to do with offsetting costs. If it's truly a budgetary argument for it, I think that I want to make sure that would be something that would be there. And I get your argument that it's a trial. I do get that. The only issue is it sounds mean, but we are on the hook for those kids that you accept. So you're right, that's a travel. We could go no next year. It's just that, we have those kids for the remainder, for as long as they're staying and graduate. So that's like a concern, and it's kind of like a rolling the dice kind of thing. And I know that we do have districts around us that do opt into school choice. And I don't know how public, kind of looking for public information about how many, like the numbers that they were having. And, I really couldn't figure out, like it's my fault for not calling the super, reaching out and figure out what the cost was. The other issue is class size. I think when you look at the class size in the schools, the high school does have a lot of space. The elementary schools are much more compressed, and I get that they're not filled. I get that there's open spots, but and I think it's the teacher in me, just having like class size could definitely be an issue. So if one of those two students, hypothetically, if one of those two students in 4th grade got plopped into a classroom that pushed that to 20, 25, and I get that we're probably not going to try to do that. We'll try to put the kid in a place where it wouldn't be there. At the same time, for the class size argument, I think I'm pretty comfortable with the upper grades as opposed to the lower grades. I think, Stephen, you made the point, like anecdotally with the class size there, and then if, you pour through the data, it does seem more cramped in the elementary towards the high school. So yeah, I think those are the two things thinking about with those two arguments about class size and the financial context. Yeah.
Melissa?
Sorry.
I was just wondering if we have data on what the smallest class sizes are in our elementary schools. Like, what's the smallest class size?
It's an interesting point, because if you dig into the data, you will see outliers. You'll see classes that sit low, let's say at the Dole Bear. And as Dr. Lyons is often to say, like, number doesn't meet need.
Right.
And so often what will happen is there might be a case in the class. So the numbers don't fully bear out what is going on in that classroom. So we can't just necessarily say, look, we still have a class at 17 students, that there must be, availability there, because there likely is some sort of outlier. That's, I think, what I saw in some of those class numbers, because it would be, and I use the Doe Bear as an example because it is one of our elementary schools that has sort of some of our higher needs programs. And so you will see in certain in certain grades, there'll be a class that has like 23, 24 students and another class that has 17. I think there's probably a reason to that, and it's probably sort of to some of those additional needs. That would be my...
So is 17 like the lowest number?
Yeah. In the given grade.
If you pull up that email that I shared, it gives the enrollment by grade, by school. So it gives specific, I also summarized the available seats per grade in the aggregate, 2 through 12.
If Alex, did you do anything?
Trying to formulate right now in the head just where I sit with all the information. That just because everyone's providing some great information, especially the financial piece there. But I'm focusing in on class size, even though it's not going to go up dramatically. And the other focus is student achievement, right? While class size, research shows class size has a small impact on student achievement, it still does have an impact on student achievement. And so, our focus is always student achievement, right, on the school committee, and improving student achievement. So, right now, are any programs being impacted by the money that we, send out for those students that do, from Wakefield, choose to go to other districts? And if not, I understand that we're, headed for that, financial cliff. And if not, what is the impact of whatever plus side of money that we're recouping going to have on student achievement? What's it going to go towards, right? So it's weighing out, right, the class size has an impact on student achievement versus, what are we really getting with the financial maybe upside of participating in the school choice program? So I'm just trying to weigh that out. I don't know if that's really coherent, but that's just kind of the thoughts I'm having right now.
What I would like to do before sort of getting some additional feedback is Dr. Piscatello said, he was like a cliffhanger the first time we talked about this, and then he's not here tonight. So what he did send was like a written response. He's not here to vote, but if nobody objects, I'd like to read what he sort of sent along as his thoughts on the matter. just as an informational. That being said, if no one minds.
This is a video speech.
I know, I should have had him do a FaceTime, yeah, do a video. That would have been much more impactful, but just for me reading. So I'll try not to trip over. So this is his direct words. So he says, I have to admit that I was pretty surprised to see that there is a recommendation to become a school choice district. As long as I can remember, it has been recommended that we do not do so. I have voted 10 times before in this manner. I strongly oppose the proposal for Wakefield Public Schools to become a school choice district, as the decision would be counterproductive for our community, our education, our educators, and most importantly, our students. There are several key reasons for my opposition. One is that school choice is not the norm amongst our peers. Wakefield often benchmarks itself against neighboring communities, particularly those in the Middlesex League. As of writing this, to the 12 districts in the Middlesex League, 10 do not participate in school choice. Burlington participates, but only at the high school level, and Reading does not indicate which grades they accept online. When we broaden our lens to nearby towns such as North Reading, Saugus, Lynnfield, Middleton, we again see no participation. When comparing us to our DART districts, 8 out of the 11 comparable districts do not participate in school choice, only Grafton, Holliston, and Neshoba do. And the data makes clear that school choice is not a common path among comparable districts. Number 2, our enrollment is already increasing. Our student population is growing, and that trend is expected to continue, especially with the construction of the new Wakefield Memorial High School and the considerable increase in housing developments across town, including any unknown development due to the MBTA Communities Act. Superintendent Lyons noted during our fiscal year 25 budget discussion at school committee that demands are outstripping resources, and one factor was an increase in the number of students which they had anticipated would be an increase of 60 students. Looking forward, the development in 200 Quantified Parkway alone, according to fiscal impact analysis, is projected to add 56 new students to our districts. As our enrollment climbs, the district's ability to provide quality education to current students must remain our top priority. Number 3, I think he has 5. Number 3, our resources are stretched thin. Wakefield Public Schools, like districts across the Commonwealth, is experiencing increased student needs, particularly among multilingual learners and students requiring additional support. Our teachers, ISP, and other support staff are reporting that their work is more demanding than ever. The fiscal year 26 budget proposal that was recently passed notes the challenges of serving 3,434 students with a wide range of needs and highlights the rising costs associated with labor, safety, and long-term planning. At a recent Finance Committee meeting and at most of the recent town meetings, it became clear that Wakefield is already grappling with significant financial constraints. Introducing out-of-district students through school choice may place additional strain on our already limited resources, and resources that must be prioritized for Wakefield students. There is an argument that bringing money into the district, the financial benefit of school choice, is speculative and frankly not substantial. Any additional revenue generated is not guaranteed to cover the long-term costs associated with increased enrollment. At most, the additional students and the 110,000 they would bring would represent less than 0.25% increase to the district coffers. Our community has invested heavily in Wakefield students, and the people of Wakefield have consistently demonstrated their commitment to local education through major investments. In 2012, voters approved a debt exclusion to fund the Galvin Middle School. While still paying for this, residents voted to build the new high school, a project that will cost the average homeowner an additional $1,200 to $1,300 annually over the next 30 years. This extraordinary and humbling community investment is meant to benefit Wakefield students, not to subsidize out-of-district enrollment. 5, we are at near capacity. At this past town meeting, Mr. McLaughlin and Superintendent Lyons had a near identical exchange about the school budget and increased enrollment. While Dr. Lyons was seemingly less concerned this year, I would remind the committee that 1 year ago, he confirmed that space, particularly at the elementary level, is right at our limits. With over 3,400 students already in our system and residential construction surging, it would not be prudent to accommodate additional out-of-town students at this time. In conclusion, becoming a school choice district, even on a trial basis, would require that we educate accepted students through graduation, which would place an unstable burden on our schools and faculty at a time we are already facing rising enrollment, increasing student needs, and future financial pressures. It does not serve the best interests of our community, and he respectfully urges colleagues to prioritize the students of Wakefield, honor taxpayers, and reject this proposal. that was, I just felt comfortable writing that. I think Kevin sort of said in our last meeting that he had more words to share, and I felt like he deserved sort of for us to share them. But I did see further. Kevin?
Yeah, that was a lot. So I forgot one point. I forgot one point I was going to make, but Melissa, so you answered Melissa. So Melissa, your question about
What's the smallest class?
yeah, I mean, I think to what Steven said, like when you just look at grade 4, because you're always going to have some classes that are just bigger. Like you're just going to have some grades that are just bigger. So, like if we could just like fine tune it where you can just like throw in the kids into like a grade that just had like 5 average less kids per class, then yeah. But when you're just going like two per grade, like you see like grade 4, it's obviously it's kind of busting at the seams, very close to the max. So I think it just makes it difficult. Like so you can say like what the average class size is, but you kind of have to look at what the biggest is, right? Like what that to think about the impact. So.
And this committee does have the opportunity, if we don't accept the proposal, to propose something else for school choice as well. I mean, as an example, the incoming 5th grade class, as you said, is busting at the seams, 297 kids. If we decided, as an example, if we don't vote in favor of the proposal, that we don't want to put 2 kids in the incoming 5th grade class in addition to that, that's up to us to make a different proposal. So
yeah, very correct.
Or if you were inclined to say we only want to do the high school, as we had talked about early on.
Yeah, correct.
So on the enrollment question, I mean, I think that that is needs to be real and needs to be our probably bottom line focus as with all that we try to do. Student achievement and the capacity of teachers to have the best learning opportunity for the students that are before them. But I think one of the things that's important to note is it's not 2 students per grade per school at the elementary levels.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about, so I think what you're saying, Kevin, we certainly would have the opportunity if, say, we get 2 kids for 3rd grade, we would look for the 17 or 18 per class and assign the student to that class. It is the incumbent upon the administration working with principals to assign, a non-resident student to which elementary school is best able to take that student. So putting a choice student in a class where there already is 25 is probably not something we do, but put that student in a class that's 17. Yeah. So I think that's an important note. It's not 2 students per grade per school. It's 2 students per grade across the 4 schools.
Yep.
So that's I think that's an important note with regard to that. Kevin, some of the questions that you had asked, you used the word a guarantee a couple times. Well, there's no guarantee right in life for anything. The only thing that would be guaranteed I suppose, would be the $5,000 per student. So if we got 22 students, we would have $110,000 just as a function of the law. So that would be the only guarantee, but it would be $5,000 per student times whatever number of students we actually enrolled. Plus, there is a special education, there is a differential for to support whatever extraordinary costs that student may bring, to the district. It's not a one-for-one cost. It's not 100% on that. So that's important to note. But one thing to share, which sort of frames the notion of any value that there would be to school choice to receiving districts, is it's not intended, and I know this can become part of the argument about money, is it's not intended to bring in 100% of the cost of educating a student. It's intended to be a supplement to what can be. Right? We're not filling empty rooms, we're filling empty seats. So there's really no direct obvious, financial burden by putting a student in a class of 17, making that classroom 18. It's not we're not hiring a new teacher, we're not hiring new rooms, we're not bringing new technology, and it's not a new bus route, we're not creating, lunch needs that aren't already absorbable, right? We're not driving that. We're filling some empty seats across the district, and receiving something in return, however modest it may be, the $5,000 or $10,000 or $12,000, depending on what the nature, of that is. So I think the recommendation that's before us and that we've discussed at the finance subcommittee, and that money, that in some ways money can't drive this because it's not intended to balance out with the actual cost of educating a student in Wakefield. But money needs to be considered when we are looking at all options that are before us. And if we're talking anywhere, if we say we get the 22 students and it's at a minimum $110,000, that's a teacher or 2 or 3 paraprofessionals. If we want to actually talk about the cost of, well, what do we get for that? That's what we get for that. There's no real way to offset, to say, I don't think there's any real way to say, what are we losing by sending out $95,000? It's too esoteric. It's not a real, nor would we be able to say, where are we going to spend the $110,000, I think, without having any, experience under our belt. But certainly the very nature of school choice law and the success that it's had around the state isn't because it brings in 100%, cost for cost. It's because it helps to complement or to supplement some existing costs without creating a burden. And that's I think where the balance lies in what we have before us, and where the balance lies in giving it a shot.
Pete?
The only other thing I think worth adding, just to kind of go on what Tom was saying, it may be a little bit different than what Kevin had written in his letter, is the plan from Dr. Lyons is to start this thing off small, to give it a trial. $110,000 may be if you get your 22 students this year, but if it's wildly successful, you could open up 20 seats in some of those grades at the high school, just given how much space we have there. So there's an opportunity, if this is something that we think is working well in the district, where this could be a lot more than just one teacher you're talking about that could be funded out of this, versus having to go back to the taxpayers and ask for a Prop 2.5 override to just sustain what we've built in place here. So I think it's just something else to keep in mind, is that's not like, if this was only, it's $110,000, you may just say, why even bother? I mean, that you could say that, but it's really more the trial and seeing whether this thing is something that is worth investing in Wakefield, in trying out beyond this initial group of students that would come.
Yeah. Ken?
I mean, I guess in my mind, the purpose of school choice statewide, and maybe I'm totally off, and any of you can educate me on this, but I think the purpose of school choice writ large isn't to help deal with these budgetary issues within individual districts. I think the broad purpose of school choice is if you have a district that has rapidly shrinking enrollment, for example. I think of a town like Georgetown or some districts like north of us that really do have shrinking student populations. It would seem to make sense to open up school choice because they really do need students, they need population, and it makes sense that the state will cover, like says $5,000 is going to go with those kids. So that, to me, I think, and okay, so I think about writ large, that's kind of the bigger, almost like a better rationale. Where in Wakefield, when you just look at the numbers, I'm not saying we're busting at the seams now, but then there's the concerns with development, the new high school, whether we see a small bump suit, like when the new high school is built.
I think another perspective is, I think school choice in the next 5 years is going to be common in all districts that can take this on. I think it's going to be a commonplace that districts are going to try to do exactly what we're proposing, create a pilot, learn, do something small and to try to learn from it, to try to bring in revenue, right? But also trying something different, right? And in the context of the time that we're in, if we just consider for a moment surrounding districts that are cutting personnel for budgetary reasons, it's, construction costs I've gone over, and it's districts are trying to manage, construction costs or, building. There are other districts are trying to manage labor contracts. Other districts have created labor contracts that are not sustainable. Now they're cutting teachers. So in the context of the time that we're in, if you look at, for example, our DART districts and the Middlesex League districts, which Dr. Piscadlo pointed out, if you fully take into account the context of what those districts are struggling with, many of those districts it's difficult to compare where we are and where they are because they're in a different place financially. This is the proposal, again, just to reassert this, again, it's 2 students per grade, right? And if you look at the bottom of the email, I put a table in there where I listed the open seats per grade. So the committee has, can modify this proposal, or the committee can say, at this point in time, we don't feel like we're ready to take this on. And we'll kind of move to next year. Reading, I never thought that Reading would do school choice. I worked in Reading for 12 years. It's a wonderful district. I was a school principal there. I never thought that Reading would do school choice. They're going into their 3rd year of school choice, and it has benefited their district tremendously. It has benefited financially. It has benefited kind of the opportunity for faculty to get their children to come to school in Reading. So there's been a lot of benefits there. I think other districts are hearing about this and seeing this, and they're kind of contemplating the same things we are. And again, if it's a timing issue or it's a build issue in terms of grades, I think we can modify this, or we can move it till next year and vote it down this year. We're just trying to make a proposal to try something different again that I think is going to be a standard, the norm, in the next 5 years for districts that can take this on. That's just another perspective.
Out of curiosity, do we know how many students Reading has in their 3rd year? Approximately.
I think I can look it up. Yeah.
I don't know if that's fingertip information. If I could chime in, I would. I have found this discussion to be really interesting because I think I started in a squarely. I like the idea of school choice because I think when we first talked about this in finance, it wasn't a strictly financial thing. It was this idea that there could be a student that maybe had some struggles in another district, sort of had some social things. And maybe we could, have a seat for them in as great a district as we are. Wouldn't that be nice for somebody to sort of find their home here in a classroom that has the caliber of educators that we have? And I like that idea of hope. As we've seen other districts struggle more recently, in towns struggle with their financial footprint, and we hear about cuts being made to programming, I think of, oh my goodness, how many students would be looking to come to a district that still funds a marching band, that still has all number of sports programming with a high level of booster support, with the arts programming that we have, with this, just all the opportunities that Wakefield has not had to make cuts to at this point. It seems like we continue to sort of be able, through the amazing stewardship of our administration, to have this high standard of education for our students. And so that's where I was. And then we got into budget discussions. And we got into the budget discussions around all of these challenges that we face, that we are facing them well, and we are doing it sort of foot forward, but all of our language learning landscape, the challenges that are there, the challenges that we have in our special needs programming and keeping that funded. I feel sort of similar to what Kevin had said, and what you had said, Kevin, is that I feel like we still have some unknowns. We're not on solid footing. It feels like the coming years are going to be ones that are a little unsure. And I don't begrudge any other district that has moved to this, and I sort of get why they would do it. But I wonder if it's the right, and this is where I put sort of my parent hat on, if it's the right, and parent and taxpayer hat, if it's the right move for Wakefield students. I did share anecdotally that one of my kids sits in a class that has reached our preferred policy limit for class size. We just talked about this around my dinner table 2 years ago. My other student sat in that exact same classroom with 7 fewer students in it. And as top-notch and A+ that educator is, it's a different classroom. It is through no, you can't deny that sort of increasing a class size by sort of that amount would have an impact. And even though that is a large amount, and these numbers we're talking are smaller, there is an impact. And however we have this discussion, however minuscule, it is an increase, and it does have an impact on schools. And then sort of, I'll close out on sort of the trial piece of it. We call it a trial, but I don't know what we're trialing. Like, where students come into our district all the time, it's not a trial, they just come into our district. I think we're trialing the ROI on it. Like, that's what it feels like. The only change here is that we would be getting a dollar amount for a student, as opposed to somebody just moving to Wakefield or moving with our development. So when we talk about, that's what I don't think it's a trial, because it's just having new kids in our district. And the only thing that would change would be this monetary value, and then what does that population look like? Does it end up sort of costing us more or costing us less? That's what I think we would be shaking out, but I think we do that all the time. And then, yeah, and I think, I think that's it. Sort of, I don't know where the extensive benefit would come from. I do, and absolutely have heard about the financial cliffs and our revolving accounts but this is us doing our due diligence with what we have. I don't necessarily think that we need to put a price tag on a seat and sort of have that be a revenue source, the same way that I don't necessarily think some of our other revolving accounts should be a revenue source. We are a public school. We are not a for-profit model. We absolutely should be judicious and watch out for the tax levy and do our proper sort of study and be purposeful in sort of where we spend our dollars. But I think I come a little bit shy of this, and to the point where this might be where the landscape goes in 5. I would be more than happy to take a look at this in 2 or 3 or something to see what is happening with our dollars federally, what is happening with the development in Wakefield, and how are we adjusting to all of the challenges that I already heard a number of times this year in sitting in budget talks and listening to Rosie sort of talk about what some of those challenges might be.
To go,
Sure.
back,
Yeah.
to, go back to your question, how many Reading's bringing in 56? They're proposing 56 more this year, and I want to say that number is probably double that now. So they're probably in the hundreds. That's where they are, right? And so, yeah, and they seem to be managing it quite well. It seems to be a positive in regard to faculty that have been able to get their children in the lottery, right? And again, I just want to go back to a point that Tom made. is if we have an empty seat, that seat's going to be empty, right? We're filling empty seats, not empty classrooms. And the proposal is 2 students per grade, right? So this is not kicking over the trash can. This is not bringing in 56 kids. This is a proposal of a very targeted 22 kids, right? And so, and I think one of the things that we heard loud and clear from town council was we need to look at our revolving funds and think about how we can increase costs, right? For our user fees, for our meals, or for anything that isn't being paid for by the state, right? But I think a concern that I have with that is we've just asked parents to take on an additional tax burden to pay for our new high school, right? And to sit here and say, okay, we're just going to pass through more and more costs. I just think that that's a conversation that the committee's going to need to take up at some point, you know. And I appreciate Alex's question about trying to wrap your head around this and make meaning of it, and where would the money go? And Tom, the school business administrator, jumps right to it. It could pay for 3 paras. Yes, right? Like, yes. If we have kids move in, or we're looking to reconstitute positions we've talked about no new positions, right? We've talked about trying to reconstitute. If we need something, then we try to do it within the footprint of what we have, right? And so there's just a lot of competing agenda here, right? And we heard pretty loud and clear from FinCom that, you know, this budget will not be next year's budget. And so again, my job is to advocate for what we need. So I'm not forecasting anything ominous in regard to future budgets. There is a lot of uncertainty. We're just trying to put a toe in the water and try something different, right? That's it, right? There's nothing radical here. It's just can we try something different? And if the committee feels like this isn't the time, okay, we'll kind of move on. And there's plenty of work to be done here, right? I think we have plenty of work to do in the summer. We're going to be kind of working on hiring positions, retiring for folks that have retired, or open positions that we have. There aren't going to be many, but we're going to be working at it. So happy to take feedback from the group. Thank you for listening.
Further discussion? Ms. Parker?
I think, in the broad stroke of things, we don't know what we don't know. And I think we owe it not only to ourselves, but we owe it to the process, and we owe it to the taxpayers. I think to take upon every opportunity we can do to bring in additional revenues to support the operation of the schools, knowing what's ahead of us, knowing what we do know, and certainly adding things that are still unknowns. I think that's an important piece of what we're doing. This did grow out of some conversations that we had around a balance between additional revenues and balancing the appropriate needs of our students in our classes today. So it can't be it can't be too heavy-handed, either way. And I think the proposal before us, modestly addresses that. To Kevin Piscatello's comments, some of them, and I couldn't agree with many of his points more, especially, historical perspective. He notes that he's voted against school choice 10 times. I voted against school choice 15 times. So, we are in a new place, in a new year, and we have to look at things in a different way. Just looking at some of the stats that Doug shared with us around the enrollments, even compared to our own, enrollment or class size policy, in grade 10 alone, we have 180 vacancies. Grade 11, we have 183. Grade 12, we have 188. The numbers obviously get smaller. Elementary schools, we have 35 in grade 2, 44 in grade 3. I don't think that any of these are imposing unreasonable numbers upon either the burden of our buildings or the burden of our teaching faculty. And I think it's worthy of us to try everything that we can to bring in additional revenues that complement what we're doing already. And I think this modestly seeks to do that.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Seeing no further discussion, there is a motion on the table to accept the superintendent's proposal for Wakefield to enter into school choice for the 2025-26 school year based on the recommendation of 2 seats proposed per grade from 2nd through 12th. So those in favor? Okay. And those against? Okay. So that means that motion does not move. Do we have a second motion? Mr. Davis.
I'll make one more school choice motion and before we move on. So I'll make a motion to add 2 students per grade for grades 9 through 12 for the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay. There is a motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. So the motion would be 2 students per grade for the high school, 9 to 12. Okay. Those in favor of Mr. Davis's motion? All right. And those opposed? So that would be 5 to 1 in favor, Michelle, of adding.
Oh, you can't count Kevin because he's not here.
Correct.
I'm new.
That's okay.
The first one was 3 to
3 to 3.
3 to 3.
And then the second one is 5 to 1 in
Yes.
favor of adding. And we can get you the direct motion language if you weren't able to write that in real
There's a
time.
motion here that I took from a previous year,
Perfect.
but we can add to it.
Okay. All right. So it looks
Well,
like
the
we'll be-
motion that Pete made is
Pete
not
made.
what's in the sheet.
Correct.
But she has a previous one, not the one in the sheet, that she can draft that off of for the term for minutes. Right? That is what we were saying.
I always send things for
Yeah.
approval, so
Yeah.
you can see
We'll
what
be
I
good.
drafted.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the proposal.
Oh, thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it. Thank you for spending the time.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Chair comments. There is an update on contract negotiations, but I think I'll save that for subcommittee reports. Just for chair comments, I would say a couple of things. One, I attended the Memorial Day ceremony that was yesterday at the Upper Common. There was a fine showing of Wakefield students. There was a couple of students from the music department playing taps on trumpet. That always gets me because they always do it so well with one up close and one far away. It's like ethereal every time. And so I don't know those students' names because I'm just a horrible names person, but they did an amazing job. And then I do remember the students that sang the anthem, which are actually singing doing the anthem at the rededication on Saturday. Was one of them was the theater arts student that was what's his name from Hades, but she was the male character. Who am I? Orpheus, right?
Jalak Patel?
Yeah, that's them. So it was her and Lucy Spry. I think they do a really they complement each other really well. So and a number of other students in different capacities. So a good showing of and I think we have 4 seniors that are looking to enter into the armed forces. So Paul happened to name them individually. It's quite the honor. So that was it's just great to see sort of our students being interwoven, all the other things that happen in our community. That being said, there are a number of students that are taking part in the rededication of Soldiers and Sailors Memorial on the Common this weekend. Actually, it's going to stretch from the Common all the way up to the Historic Society, which is the old red schoolhouse. It's up on Church Street. There'll be some shuttle buses if you need it. But there are students doing joining reenactors to tell stories. They've been, some of the AP history kids, I think, have been doing writing sort of blurbs about people that are memorialized on that memorial, telling some stories about when we were, before we seceded from the rest of Reading, when we were just part of South Reading. And so a lot to sort of be thankful for in terms of kids being able to sort of put themselves into the living history that is Wakefield. We've been around for a long time. And so it's great to see those kids be able to sort of research those people and sort of walk across those spaces that those people walked across so many years ago. So if you're available, 12 to 4-ish, I think, is when the ceremony will end. There'll be some live reenactors and some staging, some tables with some information in the Baptist church from about 12 to 2:30. And then I think the ceremony at the main stage, which is in front of the memorial, will start at 3. And I think the anticipation is that it would go on for about an hour, give or take. And then I think it's going to end with another, if you have a skittish dog, keep them inside because they're going to fire the howitzers again over the lake and bring ear protection. So that'll be great. And I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's all I have. Subcommittee reports, Finance and Facilities, Mr. Markham.
Thank you. In addition to our discussion last week around some of the school choice matters, we had a conversation getting ready for what will be on our next agenda, which will be some salary conversations we're bringing forward to the full committee for our non-represented employees. We're at a place now where we're seeing some real balance coming with the contracts being settled, or at least being tentatively agreed to, which is what Stephen sort of alluded to about for our next meeting. But that's also going to be part of the agenda before the end of the fiscal year, so we can provide some direction to the superintendent and the business administrator for how to handle the non-represented staff, school administrators, and others that have that are, we need to support those salaries and some contract our renewals. So those will be on our next school committee agenda as well. Also, just a reminder, this coming Thursday is the tour for us for the Wakefield Memorial High School construction site, 3:30. So those that can make that tour, there was going to be part of it last Thursday, but obviously the storm kind of ended that piece. But so this coming Thursday afternoon is the next date for the tour of the construction site.
Great. Thank you. Labor and personnel. Dr. Piscadlo is not here. Tom, you just spoke. Kevin, do you want to give a labor and personnel update?
Sure. So we had negotiations last Thursday, am I right? Last Thursday, and happy to report that we signed a
Wednesday. Sorry.
Was it Wednesday?
It was Wednesday. Sorry about that.
I guess I shouldn't have been the one.
That's all right.
No, I'm sorry.
But I'm happy to report that we did sign a memorandum, or we agreed to a memorandum of understanding with Unit C. So we have a tentative agreement with them. So at this point in the process, I think we actually did receive today from our lawyer a draft of the memorandum of understanding. And the process generally is that the union is going to vote they have to have a general membership vote to ratify, to see if they agree on that agreement. And then once that happens, if they do ratify, then it will come to us. So the broader committee will vote on that contract, to ratify that contract. But I think, I think the labor subcommittee definitely fully supports this contract. Hopefully it is ratified, and will support the motion to approve.
That's great. Great news. Awesome. Is there any, the other contracts that were squared away already?
Everything is, we have a tentative agreement, and right now, 4 of our 7 teachers were settled last year. The 2 that we have remaining are our custodians and our traffic supervisors.
Right.
And we are anticipating being able to make positive reports, hopefully in our next school committee meeting.
Great. Thank you.
So what that audience is that the clerical and food service have been tentatively settled.
Yep.
Right, so those will be before us.
Great. Student services, I could just say we haven't met since our last meeting. The last thing that we have worked on was the later start time, and that is in the administration's hands to sort of move a path forward on that. Okay. Policy and communications. Mr. Davis.
We have not met. We do have 4 different motions from policies that were laid on the table in our last meeting. Before we run through them, I'll just kind of maybe summarize. So Section E was a section that is titled Support Services. It's basically anything involving that category ends up under the Section E. Section H was a small section, and that category is negotiations. F is one that is titled Facilities Development, and we recently approved that section, but after approving it, that we were made aware of some items that didn't align with the town charter, specifically around facility naming as well as retirement of facilities. So we made modifications to those 3 policies in that section to be consistent with the town charter. And then the last one is from Section G regarding personnel, and it was the one that we've talked about that's kind of the code of conduct, for lack of a better name. We've talked about other names as well. And that one, I've learned a little bit about some pieces of working through some of these policies, and I kind of missed a step on that one to follow up with our council. And in discussing it with them, there was one sentence we added that they just felt just didn't make any sense in that particular policy. Not that it wasn't covered, it was really just covered in other parts of what our staff has, and just didn't belong in that one. And then one other one specifically regarding professional standards that they recommended we added to that particular policy that we had previously approved a modified version of. So Kevin, I don't know if you want to kick it off. We'll do one at a time through those 4 different motions, unless we can do questions as we do each of them if there's any.
Sure. Move that the school committee approve policy book Section E as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? I would just mention to any folks, these policies will be posted in our policy section, as well as they are in the packet for further review after we vote, if you just want to see them.
And I've said it a few times, but I'll say it again since we're talking through them. The goal here is to get to the point where we host our policy book online through MASC that will make the whole searching of these policies easier. Right now, they're just a bunch of standalone PDFs that aren't easily searchable. So that is the end goal, and we're making small little baby steps, but hopefully we'll chomp through the remaining ones and get through this, and at least as long as I'm on policy.
That's it, you're staying there. All right. All right, seeing no further discussion, those in favor? All right, that is unanimous. Thank you.
Sorry, I was scrolling down. Move that the school committee approve policy book Section H as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Those in favor? Oh, any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay.
Move that the school committee approve revised policy book sections FF, FCB, FFA, naming new facilities, retirement of facilities, memorials as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor? Wonderful.
Move that the school committee approve revised policy section GBEB 701/R, Code of Conduct as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on Code of Conduct? Seeing none. Those in favor? Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you. That be it?
That's it, thank you.
All right. And thank you, Melissa, because I know you did a lot of work with this policy book, so thank you for your time and effort. Much appreciated. Liaison reports, if any.
So the Human Rights Commission met, I think it was last Tuesday. One of their chairs has, I don't know what you call it, aged out of the amount of time they could serve on the Human Rights Commission. So Sherry is no longer on the commission just because her duration of how long she can serve has ended. They did elect some new members. I think they had one new member in the last meeting. And I just wanted to send my thanks for their, I'll probably get the name wrong, Asian Art and Food Festival they ran, I think it was a weekend ago. And it was pretty well attended. I thought the food trucks added a really nice element to it and brought up some additional people to visit the event. They had a lot of Wakefield students who did things from lion dancing to these really cool gigantic yo-yos. And they did a really great job putting on this event, and it's gotten better and better every year. And I know that commission is extremely tiny. So every time they're putting on these events, I'm definitely thankful. And I know they're always looking for folks to join if anyone is interested. So that's all.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, it's a great group. Okay. Future dates and agenda items. Our next school meeting will be Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. God willing, everyone will be here and we can vote for officers because, this chair is getting static. So that should be fun. And then we will look for, if you have future agenda items, aside from electing of officers and reconstituting subcommittees and calendars and all the other fun stuff that comes with that, feel free to forward them on. Agenda number 13, school committee comments.
I have a question on your last one. So
Yes.
the possibility of a Zoom meeting or a special meeting didn't come about?
It did.
It wasn't the thing?
Spring scheduling turned into a thing.
What?
Yeah. I saw 6 at one point, and that was even, I think one of them was Michelle. So I think it just became, yeah. Yep.
No problem.
And I haven't heard that anyone can't make you're not doing this to me on purpose, I know you're not, but like, everyone can come to the 10th meeting, right? That'll be good.
Stephen just wants the record for how many times he can stand up and speak at graduation.
No, that's not it. Okay. Any other school committee comments, snide or otherwise?
It was obviously a joke,
Kevin.
Stephen.
I think, so like we kind of like gain school committee members and we lose them.
Yeah.
And something just funny happened today, and now it's late, so I'm just tired. So I'm just going to tell you what happened. So Eileen just left us, and as we all know, she had some very firm opinions about homework policy and homework guidelines. And my son came home, he's writing an argumentative essay. I'm like, what's your argumentative essay on? He goes, homework. I'm arguing that it should be banned. And I said, I'm like, is Eileen Colleran talking to you? And he said, no, Dad, you don't get it. And then he gave like these arguments that it was destroying the family unit. Like he went deep. And I just said, so Eileen is coming back from the grave to have influence on some of our assignments. That was it, totally non-substantive, but Eileen, yeah.
I appreciate that. That's great. That's great. Yeah, Pete.
I just wanted to pass on my thanks to everyone on the Labor and Personnel Subcommittee and from administration and also from the unit. I know we always enter into these negotiations with good faith, and I think good results happen when both sides come to the table and really want good outcomes for the district. And I know that's not an easy position to have. It's a subcommittee I've never asked to be part of, and I really appreciate all of the effort everyone on that subcommittee puts in.
No, that's true, absolutely. Yep, could not agree more. All right. All right, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Yeah, move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of Tuesday, May 27, 2025.
Second.
At 10 o'clock.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Good
you,
night, have a
everybody.
pleasant tomorrow.